Thank you. Welcome everyone to this special meeting of the Corporate Services Committee on November 5th, 2025. It is in fact 9:30 and I am calling this meeting to order. As we gather here today, we acknowledge on behalf of the County of Renfrew and our community that we are meeting on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin people. The County of Renfrew was established in 1861 on these lands, which have been cared for by the Algonquin people for thousands of years. We express our gratitude to the Algonquin people for their stewardship of this land and honor their rich history and culture. We also thank all the generations of Indigenous peoples who have maintained a deep connection to this territory, and we are committed to fostering respect, reconciliation, and understanding. And at this time, has roll call been taken?
Through you, Chair, yes, roll call has been taken and we have quorum.
Thank you. So before we begin today, I want to take a moment to recognize some very special guests joining us in council chambers. The young adults participating in Bring Your Kids to Work Day. We're absolutely delighted to have you here. And I understand that there are 10 youth participating in this program across the county. You're in a room where important decisions are made that help shape our communities, support families, and build a better Renfrew County. Whether you are here to learn about your parent or guardian's roles, or just curious about how local government works, we hope today sparks your interest. Who knows, maybe one day you'll be sitting in these very seats as a county councillor, helping to make big decisions that impact thousands of people. Or maybe you will join our amazing staff in one of our many departments: long-term care, emergency services, operations, corporate services, development and property, or community development. So ask questions today, explore, and most importantly, dream big. We are proud to have you here, and we hope today inspires you to see yourself as part of Renfrew County's future. Welcome and enjoy your day with us. And at this time, I need mover and seconder to change our agenda to insert number 10, the deferring the report up before number 6, which is going into our presentations. Could I get a mover and seconder for that? Moved by the councillor from Laurentian Hills, second by the member from Petawawa. All in favor? And that has reached 2/3. Thank you, that carries. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? I see none. So I don't have an adoption of the minutes, but as I just said, the following resolution, number FAC 251072 from our October 8th, 2025 meeting, was deferred to today's special meeting. I would ask that the mover, Councillor Hodnott, and seconder, Councillor Service, withdraw this motion in order to proceed with the recommendations from today's presentation. I can read the resolution if you want, or you've all got it in front of you. Or is Councillor Hodnott and Councillor Service okay with removing? Awesome. All in favor? Thank you. All right. And at this time, I will turn this over to Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome, students. This is the fun part. You can have my job in 20 years. Have at it. So it'd be fun. Good on you. Thanks for coming.
You don't want his job?
No. Sure, it's a fun job. Get to spend my every second Wednesday with you folks. It's a great day. So good morning, everyone. For the most part, Mr. Burke, our treasurer, of course, will be running through the presentation today and making sense of the numbers, as he always does. But I thought I'd just take a moment to frame the conversation before we begin today's conversation. So as you know, every term of council, we are directed to take a fresh look at remuneration before the end of the term, and this is coming up next October. You will, of course, recall that we began that conversation last month, as the resolution stated by the chair. And of course, recall and determine that this special meeting allowed us to get more time to get into the weeds. So here we are today. So by now, hopefully you've had a chance to review the Gallagher report once again and the independent review that took place. Of course, since that time, I've been able to sit down with our treasurer, our clerk, and many others on the team to sort through what's become a fairly and pretty complicated set of rules and practices over the years. So that has brought us to today, and that's allowed us to break out the resolutions in last months a little bit more. We acknowledge, of course, that we've taken some liberties and further defined the previous resolutions to clarify the points that were raised in points 1 through 7. Today isn't just about compensating council members for the increasingly complex duties of your job. It's about taking a look at streamlining the functions of meetings, conferences, and the like, and attempting to create a balanced approach and a series of procedures and policies for staff to follow. Certainly today is not about politics. It's meant to be a discussion about clarity, fairness, and good governance. And it's about making sure the way council is compensated reflects the work that's being done and that it lines up with how other municipalities approach this. And of course, in terms of process over time, what started out as a straightforward system has now turned into something that takes a bit of a detective work to navigate. And of course, the clerk can talk to this, as many of the staff can attest to. It's become a little more, it's a little difficult to work through some of the per diem issues. So between stipends and per diems and conference budgets, receipts, and different interpretation of what counts as what, it's gotten somewhat messy. It's confusing for council, it's time-consuming for staff, and not as transparent as it could be for the public. So at the end of the day, we're hoping that we're able to move forward and towards cleaning that up, simplifying the process, aligning it with our broader compensation approach across the corporation, and making sure it's clear, consistent, and sustainable. Finally, when someone looks at how we handle remuneration and expenses, it should make sense, and it should be easy to understand. As stated earlier, today's presentation has a series of recommendations. We could have easily called them suggestions, quite honestly, for this presentation, as they are meant to frame a conversation about what this council deems important and what the corporation requires to continue to recruit candidates to the municipal world. So that said, what we're hoping to accomplish is walking through the presentation as a whole, then going back and working through those individual suggestions or recommendations. So again, we appreciate the input and the conversation that today we'll have, and I definitely appreciate the conversations and the input that we've received to date. We had a lot of comments and suggestions and conversations over the last 4 or 5 days with Mr. Burke, myself, and others. And again, we hope for a positive discussion today moving forward. So with that, Chair, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Burke to walk through the presentation.
Good morning, Corporate Services Committee, and thank you for being here this morning on a nice rainy day. As Craig mentioned, these are just staff suggestions, and we're focused on reducing our own administrative burden and putting council remuneration somewhere in the middle of our peer group. And between those two concepts is how we arrived at all of the staff suggestions contained in the presentation. So with that, as Craig mentioned, the direction coming out of last committee meeting brought us here today, and we've taken some adjustments, and we're seeking to break the discussion into a couple of points. So the first up, council salary, then warden salary, then this notion around all of the chair premiums, the various chair premiums we have, our ad hoc stipends for those committees that aren't the standing committees but crop up from time to time, benefits for county council and the warden, conference expenses, and then this notion of deputy warden. So first up, of course, we have council salary, which is relatively simple. We did have the Gallagher review done last month, which benchmarked your council salary amongst your peers, but that is, of course, at 2025 rates. Today's salary versus today's salary for your peers. And you are, of course, looking to adjust the salary for your successive council, the council elected in 2027. So what we've done is we've assumed a sort of a standardized inflation of 2% per year. Now, this is confirmed for county staff for 2026, but nothing is confirmed for 2027. And we're estimating that the peer group will also move at the same rate, 2% increases each year. So that means that at the end of 2026, the council salary will end at $23,091 per year. And to be at the 55th percentile of your peer group, we would estimate that you would want to have your salary for 2027 be set at $25,709. That's a relatively, I would say, modest increase of $2,156 of jump between the 2026 and 2027 years. And so when we did this the prior term of council, we had a very large increase, about $6,000. So we had phased that in over 4 years. Because this is significantly smaller, staff would suggest that there's no phase-in warranted. We would just begin council salary on January 1st, 2027 at $25,709.
Yeah, I would prefer to do the whole thing because some items might flow into this. So if you don't mind, we'll come back to the recommendations. Thank you.
Not at all, Madam Chair. Moving on then to the warden's salary. So in the warden's salary review, we actually have the opposite problem. Our warden's salary is slightly above that of our peers. So if we carry on increasing the warden's salary at the same rate as the non-union compensation for all staff, which is what we have been doing, that difference will continue to grow, that our warden will always be compensated at the upper end of our peer group. So staff's suggestion to rectify this is just to not increase the warden's salary for the next term of council. It would remain at the rate it reached at the end of 2026, which is $74,581 per year, and it would just stay there for the entirety of the next term of council. And by then, it would be more in line with its peer group, which is currently at about $60,000. Now we move on to the more complicated concept of chair premiums. So as you all know, we have 5 standing committees, and the chairs of each standing committee are compensated for that role as an increase in their base salary each year. So next year, that increase over and above the regular council salary will be $2,449. Then we have this concept of vice chair for standing committee, which we pay by the meeting, $240. It's not commonly used, but it has been done. And then we also have these other committees that crop up from time to time, ad hoc committees. So the most recurring ones are the Algonquin Trail, or I guess it's just Trails now, Advisory Committee. There are other ones in there as well. Some years they're more in use, other years less in use. But the chair of an ad hoc committee will get $784 per year, but the chair premium only begins in the month of the first meeting of that committee, because in the event the committee never meets for the year, there's no chair and no premium. So it's a little bit of a different concept there. Given that all of these extra items are hard to compare to each other. Different ad hoc committees have very different requirements. Some are quite engaged, others not so much. And the vice chair concept is not commonly used at all. Staff's suggestion was sort of the simplest route to acknowledging that the chairs of the standing committees have a significantly higher workload and just ignoring the rest and leaving it up to the striking committee to try and balance that workload across all of the standing committees. So our suggestion would be just to carry on with the standing committee chair premiums and have no other chair premiums. Each of you will in all likelihood be on at least one ad hoc committee. That's typically the way the standing committee tries to distribute the workload, and that, staff would prefer that you view that just as part of the job. Now, this is an ad hoc stipend, so again, you can be appointed to be chair of a standing committee, or you can be appointed to a standing committee, and we have a stipend for that as well. When we look across our peer group, only 3 of our peers have something similar, but they are significantly less in dollar value. Now, again, we only have a 1 rate, it's per the day. So a lot of our peers have half-day rates or things like that, so they have a bit more flexibility in how they compensate per meeting when they choose to do that. So similar to the last comment, the ad hoc committees have very different and varying levels of commitment and workload. And again, staff would view it as the simplest mechanism would simply be to increase the councillor's salary, base salary, and acknowledge that some of that compensation is for the various other ad hoc committees you may be appointed to. Administratively, the problem ceases to exist. We pay you monthly, and we don't have to worry about which meetings you attend, simply the mileage to get there. As a sort of a side effect of eliminating an ad hoc stipend, we have this concept of alternate member. So here at the County of Renfrew, we do compensate when a municipality chooses to send an alternate member because their regular member is unable to attend. So the way the current compensation works is that the alternate member will get the $240 stipend for ad hoc meetings, and that stipend will be reduced from the regular member's salary. So it doesn't cost any extra to the taxpayer to send an alternate, it just shifts the money around. But if we don't have an ad hoc stipend, then that system doesn't quite work anymore. So what council or what staff would prefer is, again, sort of a simple solution is that when there is an alternate, we would just cut that councillor's salary into pieces. So the regular councillor would still get a 60% of their salary, and the alternate would get 40%. That's kind of in line with how our LTD rates work now, where if you're unavailable on long-term leave, you get about 60% of your regular salary. And again, so now looking at benefits, it's very hard to look at and compare total compensation without considering total compensation. So for staff, that is, of course, our salary, but also, in the staff's case, vacation, pension, and benefits, all pooled in to form our compensation. And in a similar case, we look to our peers to see how much total compensation do they get for their roles. And the significant outlier is that your peers, by and large, do not get health and dental benefits. Only one of them provides something similar. However, it does require the member to contribute 20% of the cost. Two of our peers provide life insurance, which we also do. So that's 3 in total for life insurance and only 1 other for health and dental. So staff, again, taking the very simple approach that you should be in the middle of your peers, have thrown up the suggestion that you shouldn't, we should just get rid of health and dental benefits. Again, that's just our comment on putting you in the middle of your peer group, and not a comment on the final decision you may or may not reach, or the value of your services or anything like that. As far as we're aware, on the pension side, no municipality in Ontario provides OMERS, though it is an option. No one has done this, and it's a bit of an odd benefit to provide, since a number of councillors are actually over the maximum retirement age anyways, so it's a bit of an odd concept to provide that, but it is eligible. At the new term of council, we will provide laptops should you wish, so that the technology benefits are there. That's in line with our peer group. Yes, so just as a follow-up to what your actual benefits are, so you have basic life insurance for $100,000. You can buy optional spousal life insurance. You have drug coverage, private nursing care, paramedical, unlimited physiotherapy, coverage for hearing aids. You have out-of-province and out-of-country medical coverage when you choose to travel. You have vision care, $300 every 24 months, and dental care, so dentures up to $2,000 per year, major restorative and orthodontic surgeries 50% coverage. So a very good dental plan. And now we can switch to the concept of conference expenses. So this again is a different concept when county council is on attending a conference, which you frequently do. The current system is that each councillor has a maximum conference budget of $3,900 per year, and that includes a $243 stipend per day while on conference, plus covering the travel, hotels, conference registration, and any meals you incur there. The problems we see with this are it's unclear when a councillor is at a conference or when a councillor is advocating on behalf of the county. And we do have an advocacy budget, but there's no maximum there. So it's, when you attend AMO, you will frequently be asked to meet with ministers and whatnot, and we would consider that advocating on behalf of the County of Renfrew, and attempt to not charge that to your conference budget. Again, you can imagine it's very hard to figure out which portions of what conference are for what activities. Direct reimbursement of receipts, so this is where you are purchasing meals or like things. That is difficult. It involves us rounding up receipts. It puts those receipts into the public record, available for review by members of the public. And it's generally just an administrative problem. You currently have a maximum rate of $95 per day for meals. And that is becoming a difficult thing to achieve in some of the downtown areas where these conferences are currently being held. The per diem subsidy of 243 hours a day, or $243 while attending the conference, that is not consistently in use across the councillors of County of Renfrew. A number of councillors will not claim that per diem if for a short conference or a half of a day event. Some will. It's not well defined, and again, all the same problems as the ad hoc stipend. The workload is not even, but the dollar amount is even. And then for mileage reimbursement, the County of Renfrew actually operates two independent mileage rates, one for when you have less than 5,000 kilometers traveled in the year, and one for when you have more. And that, of course, requires staff to track how many kilometers you have, in fact, traveled in the year, and know that when you submit an expense claim, at a certain point it has to exceed, we have to change the rates based on the kilometers traveled during the year. Further to this, staff is looking to actually make the county council conference travel and hospitality policy the same as the staff one. So just one travel, conference, hospitality policy for the whole organization. So to do that, staff would propose that a great simplification of the current system. We have each councillor be allowed to attend one provincial conference per year. So this would be like AMO or Roma. And we wouldn't impose a maximum budget. It costs what it costs to attend that conference. The chairs of the standing committees, we would propose to be allowed to attend two conferences per year. So that would be both AMO and Roma, which is typically what we see now. Members of the Roma, AMO, and FCM board would, of course, be able to attend those board meetings subject to the council-approved budget. And, in our county council budget, we do have special line items for those expenses. AMO board, FCM, Roma's under the AMO board, but yeah. Advocacy required by councillors, so such as Queen's Park Day, which is coming up, and I know a number of you are going to advocate on the County of Renfrew. That would just be done at the request of the warden, and we would cover all the expenses for that, similar to what we do now for advocacy. In addition to that, to make up sort of the gap between attending one conference for a year and some councillors desire to attend other smaller conferences throughout the year, there's a few tourism ones and the other ones. They're much closer to home, but much smaller. we would propose that we do provide a separate council conference budget, but it'd only be $1,000 to cover those little items that councillors should wish to attend. And then conference expenses, of course, be limited to travel to and from the conference, hotel accommodation, meals, registration, and we wouldn't pay the per diem rate while at a conference. That would just be part of your base salary again. We wouldn't try to compensate directly for the time you're either spending at ad hoc meetings, conferences, things like that. The rates we're proposing, as you can see from the chart, as we move to flat rates, we had to sort of scrounge around and look for who else uses flat rates and what is the appropriate flat rate to reimburse for meals and mileage. The provincial government flat rates under the broader Public Sector Procurement Act are a bit of a joke, a running joke when you go to conferences and you see the provincial employees take out their bag lunch, but they only allow them a maximum of $45 a day, $10 for lunch. I'm not aware of anywhere I could get a lunch for a breakfast for $10, but that's what they do. And they compensate mileage at 40 cents a kilometer. The federal government, on the other hand, has a very complex system published by an organization called the National Joint Council. It updates itself quarterly, and it's, again, flat reimbursement, but at significantly higher rates. Our current policy is, of course, per receipt up to that $95 a day maximum and 2 mileage rates. And our proposed rates then are kind of slightly below or around the federal government rate is sort of what we went with. So $25 for breakfast, $30 for lunch, $60 for dinner, $15 should you be required to stay overnight at a hotel to cover some incidentals. That's a maximum of $130 per day. And for a kilometer reimbursement, we would just have the one rate, 66 cents a kilometer, which is the higher rate of the tax-free CRA vehicle allowance. So we wouldn't have to track the two-tiered rate system. So again, this would be no receipts, just if you're on a conference and you require breakfast, $25, here you go. With this comes in what we expect to be the revised corporate expense conference policy, this notion of hospitality, where the corporation is buying the meals, such as lunches at county council and whatnot. It's a, excuse me, a different concept from expense reimbursement, where you're on your own going to and from a conference. So our proposal is to have this concept of hospitality expenses, which is just to allow, enhance the experience of a business meeting. So functionally any situation where the employer is providing lunch, whether that be at county council or staff Christmas parties or whatnot. And we would impose a maximum rate of 2 times the relevant meal reimbursement rate. So again, you'd have the ability to have hospitality, but it does have a reasonable maximum on it. Some other items of note with the conference expense, and this is really just because this is where, from an administrative point of view, we have the most problems or difficulty, and it's the most time-consuming to administer, both for council and for regular staff as well. So just a couple other points we seek to do. So hotels, of course, no reimbursement for optional room upgrades. I think that's relatively standard, but again, we would put that into the policy. Mileage, of course, calculated from the place of work or the actual starting destination, whichever is closer, which is again a commonly and internal practice in use now, but not stated in the policy. Meal, so again, when you're getting flat meal reimbursements, now you need to define the time at which, if you leave prior to 7 a.m., you're now eligible for breakfast. And again, that's all defined in the federal policy. We would just copy that into the county policy. Hospitality, again, a concept of requirement to know who's attending the business meeting. So right now, most people will scribble on the back of their seats who was there. We just have a standardized form for that to make it a little easier. Again, this concept that we wouldn't reimburse for expenses if an alternate is provided. So that's the conference is providing lunch, so you don't claim lunch, that type of concept. And then as, just to clarify our general operating procedure, which is what we do now, is that when you're going to a conference on behalf of the County of Renfrew, we attempt to book and pay for the registration, the hotels, and make the travel arrangements. And then the meals and mileage claims we would reimburse via expense claim, as opposed to individual counselors trying to pay for their own registrations. We usually do that as a group. And the final concept we wanted to discuss was around this notion of deputy warden. So the current warden earlier this year brought forward a couple recommendations, but one of the underlying themes that staff thought was the notion of workload, trying to give the warden help in his workload. And so 6 of our peers, 6 of 10, have a deputy warden position, and in our internal current procedural bylaw, we also have the ability to appoint a deputy warden. So staff look through our peers, and they average a premium of about $3,000 over and above the regular council salary. So should you wish to appoint a deputy warden, we would suggest that that position get an additional stipend of $3,000 a year. And then they could be, they could attend events and do items on behalf of the warden as the warden sees fit, and we wouldn't have to worry about, per meeting type of reimbursement for the deputy warden.
All right, thank you. So we're going to go back to recommendation number 1, that the Corporate Services Committee direct staff to return a council remuneration bylaw for approval in January of 2027 with the following: a base councillor salary of $25,709 per year, annual increases from 2028 to 2030, consistent with the non-union salary increase, a compensation review be returned prior to the end of the council term and be in effect of January 2027. May I have a mover and seconder to get that on the floor, please? Moved by the member from McNabb Braeside, seconded by the member from Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards. Discussion? Questions? Member from Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. First question, can I have 2 questions, please? And under the council salary, under councilors, there's 2, 4, 6, say 10 comparatives. How many of those are committee of the whole?
Apparently, we do not have that information.
Okay.
Second question.
Maybe it's not a question, but maybe a vision or a visual, is that we have, when we do the compensation review, we end up going to the middle of the group. And then as the 4 years progress, we end up and fall down to the bottom 3. So are we looking at it the right way to project ourselves for the full 4 years, or are we just trying to make do for the first year?
I think that's a great question, and I know that other counties are in reviews at different times, which sort of messes with where we are at year over year, but did anybody want to tackle that?
Yeah, I'll start, and Daniel, of course, is the numbers person, but like staff, you have directed us, or have previously directed us to be at the P55, in the middle, right, in the middle of our peers. Depending on the COLA or the CPI or the annual adjustments, you may maintain that or go below or above that, depending on what happens. From a staff perspective, we've seen it as well, right? Staff have seen different adjustments over the years since the last adjustments have been made to bylaws or Gallagher reports. Some adjustments have been made larger in other municipalities, and some have been made smaller. So it is, in a perfect world, the compensation is reviewed annually to make sure you're staying at P55, but that's not, from a council perspective, that's not what happens. We're nearly obliged to do this every 4 years as opposed to annually. So you are, if you start out at P55, then hopefully all your peers adjust it by CPI, but you can't judge that. The comment that I've heard, and I understand, so we're doing this in November, December time period. If someone else does this in February and does a different compensation, it is that kind of, I'll say that one-upmanship, if you will, or, there's different comparisons. Comparisons are a point in time. If someone else brings a council compensation bylaw forward in the next month or two that's different than yours, you may be P52 or P45. We don't know. This is a point in time right now to the comparisons that we've asked Gallagher to review.
Thank you for that. Supplementary?
Yes, please. So should we look at, and I know this might be an onerous function, but should we look at it from the lens of the P55? Should we try to forecast what these 10 municipalities are going to be at 4 years as opposed to the first year?
Again, this is again through you, Chair. This is something that we've historically done. I have seen, I think it's most recently County Peterborough that I'm aware of, at least anyways in my reading. County Peterborough for staff and elected, I think, set themselves at P65 or P70 to further attract folks both to councils and to staff. And that's where they felt, as a recruitment strategy, they needed to be amongst the highest of the municipalities or their peers to be able to recruit. So it really is a desire of you as a council members to set your standard. And if you want to be middle of the pack or the top of the pack, that's up to you.
Thank you. Anything further? Member from Whitewater, please.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to get clarification on the calculation of COLA. I know we've implemented the June calculation on an annual basis by which we do our budgeting. Can you explain if is this exactly the same thing? Have we done something unique in the calculation of inflation for council?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, this is the same. So the current policy provides that county council's annual increase be the same as the non-union staff. So it's the exact same compensation. The problem you run into is when you get to the 2027 year, of course, we don't know. So we're just guessing 2%. And that's what's, estimating the cost of that final year jump to the new year. But again, to the other councillors' points, we're always estimating this. We have the data for today, and provided we all do the same increases, you'd be right where you want it to be, but we're not sure what those increases are till we get there.
Excellent. Thank you. Member from Greater Madawaska, please.
I didn't have my hand up, but if you want me to ask a question, I could.
I'm sorry. I thought you did when Neil had his hand up. Sorry about that.
No, I could think up something quick. No.
Anything further on this item? The member from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Throughout this discussion, I guess we're just considering base salary here, and if later on we choose to retain health and benefits and life insurance, that can obviously change individual member salaries, those who choose to use those services. So and I know it's hard to put a number to it, but if somebody uses life insurance, health, dental benefits, how does that change the base salary, just in terms of comparison?
I almost thought that this recommendation should come last because there are so many other variables before we get to this.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, you are correct. So this concept of total remuneration, right? So what is the value of your salary plus your benefits plus all the other great things that you get, and is that equivalent to the 55th or the middle of your peer group. Of course, benefits, individually have great value, but also if you don't use them, they're of no value. But I can tell you what they cost the county. So in a given year, the single benefits, so that is a person who is on Manulife with no spouse or children, costs $3,231 a year, and the family version where you add a spouse and children is $6,668 in the 2025 year. But that's, again, what it costs us, not the value to the member. I should also add that only 11 of the 17 councillors have actually opted into the family and health and dental. Everyone has life insurance, which costs $370 a year, but only 11 of the 17 actually have those health and dental benefits.
So to Mayor Service's point, I'm going to ask for a mover and seconder to postpone this particular recommendation to the end. The member from McNabb Braeside, seconded by the member from Laurentian Hills. All in favor? Thank you. We'll put this at the end. Excellent. Now, I have a recommendation of the Corporate Services Committee direct staff to return a council remuneration bylaw for approval in January of 2027 with the following: a base warden salary of $74,581 per year. No annual increases be provided in the 2027 to 2030 years. A compensation review be returned prior to the end of council term and be effective January 2027. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by the member from Arnprior. Second, there's nobody else back there. Moved by the second by the member from Greater Madawaska. Discussion. Member from Greater Madawaska.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. COLA, will COLA affect this at all? Because it says there's no change. So I'm just wondering if COLA, does that need to be in there or not?
Through you, Madam Chair. So typically under our current structure, the warden salary would continue to increase at the rate of non-union staff. So we already know what the salary will be for 2026 because we already know the non-union COLA increase is 2%. And without doing anything else, it would just continue to grow at the same rate as all non-union staff and county council. So what we're suggesting is that the concept of red circle, that it not continue to increase throughout the term of council.
Thank you for that. Yes, I've been using the term red circle around the warden's salary. Anything further? Member from Abbotston Bromley, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's a difficult process that we're following. I think that I was looking at Mr. Blackmore, Mr. Belmore earlier. This almost seems like a collective agreement, and it's difficult to see any of these items separated from all of the rest. And I think that's how we actually deferred to that first resolution to the end, because it's almost impossible to have this conversation piecemeal. On this one in particular, since this is in front of us, I am kind of curious. So this warden salary slide, the previous one where it showed the comparators, Mr. Burke, if you would mind.
Yes, only Dufferin was ahead of us.
Yeah. So, and I don't know what slide it is. I had it on here, but there is a slide in this presentation that shows the municipalities that have a deputy warden. The first 4 on there have a deputy warden, and 5 of the first 6 have a deputy warden. So I think once again we're not comparing apples and apples. We're comparing apples and oranges. It seems to stand to reason that the warden's salary would be lower in a municipality or a upper tier municipality where there is a deputy. Does that not seem reasonable that that would be the expectation? So if in fact the determination is to essentially by attrition, probably the incorrect word, bring the warden's salary down into that P50, let us say, then it's not really consistent, given that unless we have a deputy warden, then there is a lot more expectation of the warden here than in the communities that are below us. As I said, the bottom 4, or the top 4 on that slide, and 5 of the top 6 all have a deputy warden. Lennox and Addington's is 25,000. Frontenac's is 21. Bruce County's 28. Northumberland County's 28. Hastings County is 18. So if we're actually going to create a job description for a deputy warden where the expectation would be some of the current roles of the warden would now be set off to a deputy, then it makes eminent sense that we would reduce the warden's salary. But if in fact we're not going to have a deputy warden, then I dare say that the workload of the warden is probably substantially more in communities where there is no deputy warden. Seems reasonable to me in any event.
Yep, thank you.
No, thank you, Chair, and through you. So just, there wasn't necessarily a question to staff, but I'll try to raise it. So as pointed out in the presentation, the procedural bylaw currently allows for a deputy warden to be appointed at any point by the warden in any given year. The current rate of compensation for the deputy warden as per the procedural bylaw is the 243, or the per diem as per the regular per diem as agreed to on an annual basis. We didn't do an analysis, so let me back up. On occasion, let me back even a couple years. I believe it was the first term of current warden Emo, he deputized Councillor Lynch, Councillor Murphy as deputy wardens for that 1 year period. Since that 1 year, there was never another actual appointment of a deputy warden after that first term. That notwithstanding, on a regular basis, the current warden has often reached out to you as colleagues to attend events on his behalf. And when that happens, it's to be compensated at 243 at the current per diem rate. We did not do an analysis of what that cost is annually to see if it's equal to or greater than or less than the $3,000 that's being contemplated today. So I just offer that it is not a new position. This is just acknowledging that should the warden appoint a deputy warden at this time or in the future, that instead of paying a per diem would just be an annual stipend of a set amount as opposed to 243 per year. Just to clarify.
And my suggestion in speaking to our CAO was that if we were going to have a deputy warden, then that $3,000 should be taken out of the warden's salary. So that was going to be my recommendation later on, but supplementary?
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay.
So by that, ultimately, if it's $243, if we had one deputy warden, that would be 100 events. I don't know, I'm kind of curious if our deputies are attending even remotely near 100 events, or 50 each. 10 events, so it'd be about $2,400, right? Bruce County is paying $28,000 to their deputy warden. I'm going to guess that their job description of their deputy warden is substantially different than what we're describing. And I would dare say that $3,000 is fairly paltry if in fact, and I do concur with Councillor Emo in his, at a former meeting when he was acting as warden, no, sorry, he was a councillor and brought forward perhaps an alternate. I do believe that the workload of the warden has substantially increased over time, and I think a lot of those labors could be set off to a deputy, but I think that it should, I don't think $3,000 is remotely possible. That is essentially still almost a ceremonial role. At $3,000, you're talking about 10 events, maybe 12 events, whatever it may be. Obviously, this is a slide, I'm not sure what slide it is, Mr. Burke. Page 21 of the PDF is the deputy warden right there. And you can see the amounts that are being paid. I think that they have a lot more expectation that they show up for a grip and grin and a photo in the paper and perhaps a quote on the local radio station. So again, it's not so much a question as I don't think that these things can be seen in silos. That if in fact we are not prepared to stand up a deputy warden with some real required undertakings, job description, that I don't know that I am in favor. The chair was absolutely correct. When you look at the warden, I think there was only one, perhaps two counties/regions that were higher than ours. But without a deputy, that seems reasonable. So, again, I don't understand how we can do this without looking at this holistically. And that's the challenge for me in piecemealing each of these resolutions, that as we're working our way through, we're going to be working our way back because now we're in conflict. So I'm actually not in support of this. Thank you.
Member from Whitewater, please.
Question and comment, Chair. So first question is just with respect to the Deputy Warden one, and sorry, Daniel's flipping back and forth. I just want to clarify, when I first reviewed the package, I saw those Deputy Warden values as the total compensation for that member of council, not their council remuneration plus a Deputy Warden remuneration. Can that be clarified?
Through Madam Chair, that was our understanding as well, that the Deputy Warden position was not included in the councillor position, so that in this case, presuming you don't want an 18th member of council to be that Deputy Warden, it would be a premium over and above above the regular council salary. So in the case of Bruce County, the Deputy Warden rate is the same as the councillor rate. They're not adding additional compensation to that title. That's all.
Okay, so sorry, and I'm just gonna, and then I'll yield the floor back. The point that was made by Councillor Donahue is an interesting one, and I really think for the flexibility for how the warden would want to lead that position, I almost would lean towards having an allocation for the office of the warden, and then like you had said, Chair, they could allocate from within that if they wanted to take their job description, split it between one or two deputies or some other iteration. They would have the flexibility within the office of the warden allocation to do so. If they wanted to take it all on and work, you know, I mean, 73,000 represents almost essentially triple what a normal councillor would be expected to do. If that was greater than triple, then maybe that would come back to council and say, we need to re-examine this. I'm doing more than I believe I should be compensated for. But I think there's some merit in discussing the office of the warden rather than a specific remuneration for an individual.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Watt was not able to join us today, but he and I had an extensive conversation. And one of the things that he did ask with that 3,000 was how often would the deputy be used, and did it make more sense? So if something was going on in the town of Petawawa and the warden couldn't attend, would it not be appropriate to send Mayor Service as the acting warden to that event, and then the per diem would kick in and be reduced from the warden's salary? I know that sounds like a lot of paperwork for payroll, but I think that there's a way to do this where there's no added expense to the ratepayers, and that all of our municipalities would be covered if need be. I mean, if there was going to be, as Mayor Donahue said, a ceremonial warden, but then for things that even that person couldn't get to, then it would be opened up. Was there anything else? Member from Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards, please.
Thank you, Chair. So just to follow up Mayor Donahue's earlier comments in regards to adding the councillor's salary into the deputy warden. So if I was to look at the county of Peterborough, I would have 60,084 for the warden's salary, and the deputy would be 26,977 plus the councillor's share of 22,804. So the councillor's share is in addition to the deputy warden's. That's included in that?
No, that's the deputy warden's
salary. So the
salary.
deputy warden does not get
No.
a councillor's share? Okay.
No.
Because I thought I had heard earlier that it was a separate number also. But okay, that's fine.
No, that's their salary in Peterborough County.
Okay.
Yeah. Member from Emerson Bromley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and certainly would defer. It's not in the report. I think it would have been beneficial in the report. But ultimately, if I'm looking at Hastings County, then they are augmenting a councillor's salary by $1,238 to be deputy warden. So I cannot imagine that that's much more than a ceremonial function. So if in fact we're talking about ceremonial function, then yeah, it seems reasonable. But if in fact we are discussing, which was predicated on a meeting, a couple of finance administration committee corporate services committee meetings, wherein the workload of the warden has become substantial, then this seems like a reasonable time to give consideration on whether there is the opportunity to create an office that would augment the warden. My concern with what was proposed by Councillor Nicholson is that it is delegating that authority to the warden and not to council. And I think that would be better off done by council. In any event, on this item, I'm not going to pursue it any further, but I'm not in support of this resolution.
All right. Can I go ahead, Warden?
Thank you. So I really took the opportunity to listen, and I think, one of the suggestions was if it's an event in Petawawas and, Mayor's Service, and no disrespect to Mayor's Service, but he probably has a slightly different agenda and things he wants to accomplish at a public meeting and people he wants to talk to. And I think specifically of when I sent Councillor Giardini to the opening of the French language school in Arnprior, we'd sent a script because there were some themes and things that we wanted to talk about, and she wove those into her presentation. And other times when somebody goes out on our behalf, I want to make sure they share our message and have time for our message. So I don't think we should go backwards where we send the person because it's convenient and we wouldn't have to pay mileage because Gary's going anyway, so yeah, he can speak for the county. And I think it muddles up the messaging as well. I'm running into that a little bit now where I've 3 events this weekend I was at. I was also the warden and the acting mayor in Renfrew. So you're presenting certificates on behalf of the town of Renfrew, and then you back up 3 seconds later to talk about the county. So I think when we consider the function of the deputy warden, they are in essence a voice of council, because the warden is the voice of council, reflecting motions and our operations plan and our other plans and any data that's collected, whether through current reports or not. But at the same time, you anticipate what might be the wish of council should somebody ask you a question. So you do need to have someone in the deputy warden's position when you send them out that's focused on the message of the situation, and then also have a general knowledge of the operation. So I don't think we should go backwards to the good old days. I think we should establish it with the expectation it has an actual role.
So I think I misspoke. I meant that if the warden and the deputy warden, because you used a great example, Anne was able to go to the event in Arnprior. I was at another event that day. So as the deputy warden, I could not go. Thank goodness Anne was able to go. I only used that as an example because there are going to be times when in our host municipalities, we have other commitments. Do we want to postpone this item as well? Can I just sort of see nodding, or are we ready? Okay. I do have a mover and seconder, so all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. We're at the warden's salary. Yes, because we've kind of muddied it with the deputy warden, but we are at the warden's salary, number 2. Yes, member from Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. A bit confused, which doesn't take much. If this is approved, the next time we get to the deputy, that's when we can take money away from the warden's salary?
That's kind of the road I was going down. So if this is the office of the warden's salary, then I think that we need to give consideration when we get to item number 8. All right. Yes, member from Killow, Hegarty, and Richards.
Thank you. Are you looking for a motion to defer till the end?
I didn't see any
Can we?
nodding of heads. Would you like to put that postponement on the floor?
I would.
Do you have a seconder? Member from Whitewater, all in favor? We're postponing that item as, can I just see a show of hands again? Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, and we're moving on to Chair Premium. Recommendation that the Corporate Services Committee direct staff to return a council remuneration bylaw for approval in January of 2027 with the following: a premium for standing committee chairs of $2,449 a year plus 2027 approved non-union CPI. Annual increases each year from 2028 to 2030, consistent with the non-union salary increase. Remove all other chair premiums, and again, be in effect for January 2027. May I have a mover and seconder to get this on the floor? Moved by the member from McNabb Braeside, second by the member from Petawawa. Discussion. Member from Abbotston Bromley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I wanted to address, and this has been consistent throughout these resolutions, that it is directing to return a council remuneration bylaw in January of 2027. So when we so this is a much more robust engagement than when we last visited the council remuneration in March of 2022. But in March of 2022, one of the underpinning concerns or guidances was that we don't defer something so that the first thing a new council is doing is approving this. In fact, when we did this in March of 2022, keeping in mind that, in fact, the motion that was carried then was in the year of the election, it was that, in fact, the budget for the next year be prepared with these considerations. And what I really appreciated about that was this council was now putting in place what the remuneration would be for the next council. That was then absolving the next council of the second month that they're sitting here, a third month, I guess, under the new terms. The first thing they're doing is voting on their remuneration. And what I also really appreciated about the process that we did in March of 2022 is this essentially, I am going to somewhat disagree with the CAO, and he said this is not political. Everything we do in this room is political. So ultimately, if we make the decisions now for what is going to happen in 2027, there is then a referendum, should any of the ratepayers in our community wish to make it so, on whether they approve of the changes that we're doing in the election that will lead to 2027. So this is substantively different than what we did the last time. What we did the last time, this council made the decisions that these be incorporated into the budget for the first year of the incoming term. And I think that that is much more advisable than the first real substantive business that the new council is going to do in January of 2027 is be deciding on their rates of pay for the ensuing term after they've been returned for 4 years.
I do agree that this should be on this council, not on the following council. So all of these would have to be
Just amended.
amended.
October of 26, so we know the CPI.
October of 2026.
We have the CPI. Which by then we do it to expire.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I mean, sorry, the motion is fine with the removal of, in the first line, for approval of in January of 2027. I mean, that's the issue. If you read the points that make up this with the following, be effective January 2027, right? So essentially, the amended motion, if I may, that the Corporate Services Committee directs staff to return a council remuneration bylaw with the following, right? And then they would be, those points suggested therein would be, they would still be effective January 2027. But you're making the decision now for January 2027. in this one,
Right.
Right. So it's really just removing for approval in January 27, if that's,
Okay.
if you take Councillor Donohue's points.
so a friendly amendment.
No, not friendly.
What?
Not friendly.
Not friendly?
Not friendly.
Okay.
No. We're all friends, but that's not a friendly amendment, sorry.
It felt friendly. All right, so I need a mover and seconder for the amended motion, please. Moved by Armprior, seconded by, no, you were on the first one, so hang on. Member from Greater Madawaska. Yes, member from Evanston Bromley.
Should we have a specific date?
Okay, well, Daniel just said October 2026, but that could be problematic as we're in an election.
Not just an election, but lame duck.
Yes.
Through you, Madam Chair, we just need to get far enough into the year to know the CPI increase to return the actual rates that are built into the bylaw. So, sometime after, we could do it August, September as well. September would be fine.
No, we're still, as of May, it would have to be written into the bylaw that it would be whatever the CPI is. Right? We don't control that number. I don't think it's any different than CRA mileage rates. We change as the CRA changes them. Yes, member from Evanston Bromley.
Yeah, and I don't see that being a concern, Madam Chair. Under our staff remuneration, we know what the COLA is now, and it is simply COLA. I think that our actual remuneration bylaw, employment bylaw number 1 perhaps, I think it simply says COLA, whatever the CPI is. So there is not a number for staff currently, so I don't see that we need to be subjected to a specific percentage other than a reference to whatever that formula was, that arcane formula that Mr. Foss devised, that he and 3 or 4 alchemists understand. But I think that we do not need a specific number. It should be before the lame duck period would start.
Did you have something to add?
I'm questioning, I'm not sure, because we're not involved regularly through you, Chair. I'll ask the clerk. Do you remember, I know, I'm putting you on the spot. I'm just wondering when the declaration date of office is. It's usually June, I think, or something like that, right? Or the first date?
The first date is in May.
First date's May?
Absolutely.
I just don't recall, because they've changed it, or is it May 1st? Okay, yeah, so prior to the end of April then, I would suggest.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, election, silly season begins in May.
Yeah.
All right, so can I, we need to vote on the amended and then vote on the
How about we just say,
original.
why don't we just say by the first quarter, within the first
Okay.
quarter? Okay?
That's,
By
all right.
by the end of Q1.
I don't even, yeah,
Okay.
we could do it at our next county council meeting if we're not,
I mean,
if
quite
we're not
honest-
putting a number on it, which I don't think we should, right? I think we go with whatever the COLA is.
Chair, I would suggest that this could be written probably for the next council meeting when these minutes get approved, right?
There you
I mean-
go.
I mean, so,
That's how I like it.
quite honestly, that's just why I don't really necessarily, I mean, I understand a deadline of a certain date, but these are simple amendments, and if you approve these amendments, I agree, then they can be brought forward with approval.
Okay. Anything further on, so number 1, we need to vote on the amendment that takes out recommendation number 3 for approval in January 2027. So we're voting on that first. All in favor? And that carries. And then we're voting on the original motion, which included approval of January 2027. All in favor? Opposed? What? Yeah.
No, you voted on the amendment, now you just, the whole motion with that removed.
Oh, my apologies, because I had a mover and seconder
I knew what you meant.
on the, you knew the road I was going down? Yes. All right, so moving on to ad hoc stipend number 1.
Sorry, then you need to vote on that.
We just did.
No, there's some confusion, I'm sorry. It's just that, so now the motion with that removed
Yes.
needs to be voted on.
We did. It passed.
There were some hands kind of half up and half down.
I want to see hands up or no hands up. Okay, all in favor? And that carries. All right. So for all of these, I'm going to take out for approval of January 2027. Yes?
They haven't been read, so yeah.
Okay. So I have a recommendation that the Corporate Services Committee direct staff to return a council remuneration bylaw with the following: removal of the ad hoc stipend of $243 per meeting and be effective January 2027. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by the member from McNabb Braeside, seconded by member from North Algona Wilberforce. Discussion. Member from Iron Prior, please.
Thank you, Chair. I disagree on this one. The reason being the people that go to CNL, it's a full day, not a half day, not an hour. And whoever is working as a job other than council is losing a day's pay, or you have to take a day's holiday. Having said that, if the person from Deep River is going there and is only taking them whatever, you still got the person's still working somewhere. So to me, if you're an ad hoc guy, you get the full thing if you're going for the full day, but I like that part where it said you only get 115 if you're a half a day. I know it's administrative, but on the Algonquin Trail, we're not there for the full day, for sure.
And it's funny that you say that because that's exactly what I said to Mr. Kelly, is if you have a full-time job, you're missing a day of work if you have to travel, say, from Arm Prior to CNL. So, member from Whitewater and then Mr. Romley.
So I hear the comment, and I appreciate what staff are trying to do. They're trying to decomplicate the administrative burden of tracking all of this stuff. And I think I like the approach. We're basically saying, let's up the base pay of everybody, and everything's in that. So if we've upped the pay by $2,000 from 23 to 25,000, that represents 10, 2,000 or $200 days of missed pay. So I throw it back at council. It's kind of one chicken and the egg here. If you agree to put everything in the base salary, look at it from a base salary perspective. Is the base salary high enough to represent those days missed from work when you drive to CNL? If it's not, increase the base salary. Or two, decrease the base salary, keep it at $23,000, and do the ticky-tacky $243 every time somebody does something. It's kind of one or the other. Don't take the middle ground. That would be what I'm interpreting from staff.
Member from Edmundston Bromley.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I'm with my colleague from Arn Prior. I think I never really understood why it was 243. It's such an odd number. From my perspective, the 115 that Councillor Lynch referenced, that's where the peers are at. From me, when we started, so by the way, this is becoming, each time that we're doing this, it is becoming more complicated. This is a much larger consideration than I thought we were doing when we were deferring this. What I would say is, off the top, and I have given some thought to this, I was going to say off the top of my head, it is not. I think 250 for the day and 125 for a half day. And I think a reasonable policy that is available perhaps in the orientation manual for each councillor to understand what is the distinction. 4 hours, and does 4 hours mean from the time you leave home to the time you get back? What does that mean? Where I disagree with Councillor Nicholson, and perhaps I would have to draw, I think there's only two in the room, I don't know about staff, Warden Emo and Mayor Murphy, Chair Murphy in this instance. I think that in the term of council that ended in December of 2010, I think it was a hybrid, or perhaps it was strictly per diem. I think that it got moved off of that, and there's a substantial gap in the report that we have, because what I would suggest to my colleague from Whitewater is, I don't drive to Deep River. My base salary is going to be higher because Councillor Lynch does. I don't think that's equitable. I would also say, and I understand, and I want to be very careful, I understood from a staff perspective precisely what Mr. Burke was saying, but from a political perspective, I would suggest that we in fact do worry about which meetings councillors attend. Because if you do not attend meetings and yet you're still getting the pay for it, This was actually a consideration, I'm fairly certain, in 2010. I took my seat here in December of 2010, swore the oath to the township, or the municipality, and that was a consideration. That in fact, there were anecdotally told, I was advised that there were some councillors that would be here for 10 minutes for a 3-hour meeting, but that ticked over the clock. They checked a box. So I think that the hybrid is, in fact, the only way to be equitable. Mr. Burke actually noted, and he was not specific, but I will speak to the Community Health Advisory Committee. I think it's 2 years running now, and I'm the chair. So unless there's been meetings that the chair has not been present for, it's not met yet. So presumably, I am not receiving that per diem, but it does raise another question at $743. How is that prorated? If we've met once, do I get all $743? Is it twice? Is it 4 times? Is it 8 times? I don't even understand how that's done. I think that there's a lot of things can really be codified here in an employment bylaw, don't get me wrong, but I think these are the considerations that need to be given to this, is that is inherently inequitable if Councillor Lynch is taking nearly a full day to go from Arnprior to Deep River, or to Chalk River, and I am not. But my base salary is going to be higher by dint of good Councillor Lynch having making the sacrifice and taken one for the team over there. So I don't think that that's equitable either, and I think that we do need to commit to a hybrid model. And I think that I don't know, Warden Sir Murphy, if you can speak to what the model was. There was a lot went into changing this to be both more equitable, but also demanding more engagement by councillors.
So if my memory is correct, what it was before staff representatives would take attendance, and then councillors would put in as well. So it was a real mess because sometimes there's duplication, and you'd have to go back and say, look, you were overpaid. So it was an attempt to try and simplify it. And there was a concern that, you know, if you went with a salary model, then some people wouldn't show up. It was abused by a very small percentage. But there was the abuse before of somebody coming in for the one meeting and spending 10 minutes and then leaving and getting credit for being here. So this system evolved, as you say, it was a hybrid. It evolved to try and capture as many things as possible, and some members of county council did not want to attend ad hoc committees, and so you couldn't hold some of the committees because you didn't have quorum. So this was an attempt to try and make the ad hoc committees more appealing or more rewarding, and to try and get some of the business done. So the 243 was an attempt to improve attendance, yes.
Just before I get to you, yeah, there was mass confusion. Roll call would be taken, but then we'd fill out a timesheet, not realizing that whomever took roll call had already entered that into the payroll system. You know, the warden recognizes that it was abused by some people. I would say more than I would have liked to have seen at the time. I think if you're committed to county council, you're committed to being here. But yes, the ad hocs, I think it was a matter of making sure that people would attend those ad hoc committees. Member from Whitewater, please.
Just to sharpen this, we can make a decision, is that I'd put a motion on the floor to say that the policy around this should be hybrid. We would not put base salary in. We would be doing by activity or by appointment to ad hoc or committee. I would just put that on the floor. We can debate it and make a decision, because that'll shape the policy as we go forward. So that's what I put on the floor, if anybody wants to second it.
Just for clarification, you are now the recommendation number 1 about the salary, is that what you're saying? No, we leave the salary as it is and it's by activity? Well, that's what I'm asking the member from Whitewater. I just want clarification.
Yes, it includes the salary, it includes the stipend, it includes chair premium. Those 3 things would be taken out of, we'd have a base salary, and then everything else would be by stipend or appointment.
So again, just for clarification, you're suggesting that we not increase in 2027 the base salary?
Correct.
Okay. I know, yes, I was, yeah. We're getting a little muddy because the original motion has been postponed and we are dealing with number 4. So would you like to postpone the decision on number 4? This is not going well, guys.
Sure, we can postpone. It's just, you know, if we don't agree on the way that we're going to approach it from a policy perspective, the discussions are going to all be muddy. So I'm just, if we can nail down which way council wants to go, it should clarify going forward. That's the only purpose in it. I'm prepared to do whatever you think is appropriate, Chair.
I fully appreciate that staff tried to break these out, but there were some concerns that I had as well. Member from Petawawa, did you have your hand up? And then Laurentian Hills.
Thank you, Chair. And I don't want to muddy things any further. And I know we're dealing with number 4, which is the stipend of $243 per meeting. Just throwing this out there to add further to Councillor Donohue's comments, the base salary compensates all of us for coming to be here to be a county councillor. Some of us have extra, chairs of committees, and some of us have ad hoc committees that we belong to. And it's not equitable across the board. Some of us belong to 5 different committees, some of which meet fairly regularly. Some of us will be at another meeting this afternoon. So I think it's important to recognize and compensate those that, are on 5 or 6 committees as opposed to some that may only have 2. And it's just the way the standing committee dealt the cards. So I think it's important to keep the base salary separate because we're all coming here and doing the same thing every second Wednesday. And then some of us have additional duties and chair duties that need to be compensated separately.
Member from Laurentian Hills, please.
Thank you, Chair. So is Councillor Nicholson's recommendation not just to leave it as it is? So we would just take away the recommendation? Yeah.
Or we vote it down?
Yeah.
That recommendation number 1.
And then it stays as it is. We don't touch it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I got a mover to postpone this, yes? No? Yes, I think I did. No, kind of, but not really. Kind of. Can I get a...
I mean, it was suggested that he was talking about maybe postponing it, but we didn't get a second on it, so I'm not sure.
So, sir,
No, I knew we didn't get a seconder.
I can withdraw my motion because there was no seconder, and I'll move to postpone.
Okay, so we're going to postpone number 4. Do I have a seconder for postponing number 4? Member from Amherst Bromley, all in favor? All right, and that passes. We're going to do number 5, and then we're going to take a break because I imagine number 6 is going to take some time. So I have a recommendation that Corporate Services Committee direct staff to return a council remuneration bylaw with the following. The required amendments to adjust the councillor's compensation to 60% in the event of a leave of absence where an alternate member is appointed. An alternate member shall be paid 40% of the councillor's compensation and will be in effect January 2027. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by the member from Whitewater, second by the member from Petawawa. Discussion. Member from Amherst Bromley.
This strikes me as being antithetical to trying to simplify the administrative burden. I'm not understanding why, if in fact, so again, we're uncertain at this point. We have postponed a decision on per diem. But if in fact the per diem survives, then we do have at least the basis for this to proceed, because I was quite confused if a councillor representing a municipality that has an alternate, and the alternate comes, why would the elected councillor receive 60% of their remuneration for not being here?
So I asked that question months ago about an alternate being here and being paid the per diem, which I didn't see as being fair as the alternate. But I don't. Why do the named councillor, head of council, Reeve, what have you? Why do they, county councillor? Why is that?
So through you, Madam Chair, so if we just look at the current system right now, if a councillor is on leave and an alternate is approved and appointed and sworn in and shows up, that alternate will get $243 for being here. The regular councillor who is on leave will get their regular salary less what we pay the alternate. So currently they do get almost like on the non-union side, you would consider it like a sick leave or a long-term disability type principle, where you continue to be paid when you're unable to attend for reasons that are approved by county council. I don't know why we reduce it by the amount we pay the alternate, but I expect that's more of a budgetary consideration than anything. But we do currently pay members who are on leave, provided the leave is approved by county council.
Okay, but the member's question was why? Why does the alternate not all of a sudden? Okay, sorry, Warden, go ahead.
It was me. No,
All right,
no,
it's
seriously.
it's always him.
I made the recommendation as a stopgap about 3 years ago when we first encountered, or 2 years ago when we encountered it. Yeah, it could be, before that, I don't think we'd ever encountered it. We'd never had a person replace a member of county council.
Well, it wasn't really in place until a few years ago.
Yes, but it was, I remember having a conversation, I believe, with your predecessor, and he asked me what I wanted to do, and we talked about it for about 10 minutes, and that was my recommendation. I guess it became policy.
Interesting. Member from Evanston-Bromley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I believe that I'm keeping up. So actually, there is no additional cost. Ultimately, I'm assuming these percentages that are contained in this slide are mirroring what the actual that we've generally encountered on how that split has worked. Ultimately, the challenge for me is in identifying, again, I'm left with the only word, alchemy. Today is a special meeting. I've lost track now of how many special standing or special county we've had, because we don't get anything extra for those. That is contained within our salary, our base salary. So we have an extra special meeting per month for 10 months. We have 10 more special meetings. So I would say we're diluting our per meeting pay. So I have no idea how these calculations may be done by our Treasury Department. Again, I'm thinking that this would be one where perhaps more so than the employment bylaw, but perhaps standard operating procedures as to how council remuneration works might be very, very illuminating, because I will tell you, by dint of having this meeting today, my pay per meeting has been diluted for 2025. What I would suggest, as the basis for this, I think, is what Councillor Lynch had said. Keep in mind that we've had at least 3 or 4 conversations at various times, even within this council, of healthy democracy, healthy rural democracy. How do we get people interested in this? And Councillor Lynch put his finger right on it. If I'm giving up a day's pay to come here, then I hope that you're going to come close to what I'm actually sacrificing from my job, let alone that my job is prepared to allow me to take a day off to come to county council, or 2 days a month, as it were, or for special meetings, perhaps more. But ultimately, the challenge, I think, is just into how accounting for this. And I think that if we had very specific guidance for Mr. Burke or his successors, that would go a long way towards alleviating some of the administrative burden of trying to understand how that works. Ultimately, if the council remuneration is covering the cost of the alternate member, which I think only became effective maybe in 2022 or 2023. There was much consternation and tearing of hair over whether, because the lower tiers actually determine whether there is an alternate who will be appointed. But ultimately, I think that that's is the path forward, is very clear and concise guidance as to how this is to work.
This was actually the only recommendation that I thought would be a very simple thing, because I don't think it's fair that the sitting member only receives $243 out of the salary of the permanent member. So is there anything further on this item? Member from Arnprior, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On Arnprior's side, the alternate is the mayor. When she comes to council, she's paid by the town of Arnprior as a meeting/conference. That's where her compensation comes from.
Interesting. Okay, but not all municipalities are created equal. That's very interesting.
Again,
Yeah, just the comment through you, Chair. Sorry, was Councillor. Go ahead. I was just trying to give a bit of a history lesson. This was back in 2018 when the province under the Municipal Act allowed municipalities to provide an alternate, but the municipalities did not prescribe how or should they be paid, right? And they left it to us to have that conversation. I believe Wandima was correct. It was his motion that prescribed how it should be paid, so municipalities wouldn't effectively be paying two people to do one job.
Right.
Right, and that was the description, and whatever the 243 came from, that was where it came from.
Did you have something further?
no, just in the past terms, we've had a number of people come in for a month while a person's sick or whatever. I don't know how they were paid through county or their municipality, but if you're here, your municipality has approved it. You just didn't come on a lark.
And I don't know the answer to that. I can throw this to the alternate member from North Algona Wilberforce, and maybe she has some insight.
Well, I was appointed through bylaw. There's a fly on my microphone. I was appointed through bylaw, and so that's why I'm here. And probably most people know I was a former educator, and I was a phys ed teacher, and we did tons of stuff without actually getting paid for. I served on tons of committees, I spent countless hours, and that's just what I did because I felt it was my job. So when I was asked to run for council, why did I run for council? Because I wanted to make North Algona a better place, right? And so I chair a committee. I get paid $0 for chairing that committee. I write my own reports. I get paid $0 for that. The base salary, I'm the same as somebody that doesn't do anything. So when I came here, like, to me, it's an honor to be here, and you're shaping what's going to happen in Renfrew County, not just this year, but in multiple years down the road. So, like, to me, $243 is great. I'm happy with that, right? But I see what you're saying, because Mayor Brose probably gets more for attending a day, right? But it is what it is. And I just feel, I get the whole thing about trying to channel things so it's not as complicated. So yeah, you move our base salary up, but why did you guys become members of county council? Was it for the money? Because I was actually quite surprised how much you got. I really didn't think Mayor Brose got this much money. So when they said, will you run for mayor? And I'm like, no, why would I do that? Well, I'm telling you, the financial consideration does pop into your head. But in the end, why did we run? Did we run for the money? I don't know.
God, no.
We maybe ran to make Renfrew County a better place, and maybe you run so people say, that was a great job, I never thought about doing that. So, like, to me, getting rid of the $243, you know, I don't truly see a problem with that, because I feel my base salary is allowing me to do that. I get the whole idea, though, of taking a day off, and I never thought about, well, there's lots of times, even in municipal council, well, I don't put in for my half a day or a day. I just don't do that.
So,
but I mean, it's totally up to whatever somebody wants.
So just following up on what Councillor Lynch said, you're paid the $243 here out of Mayor Brose's salary?
Correct.
To sit here, well, not today because this is a special meeting.
Right.
But normal county council day.
Right.
Does North Algona also compensate you for being here as a meeting?
That's a good question that I would have never asked. Because to me, it's not that important. I'm here because I want to make a difference. I'm not necessarily here because $243 is going to move me up some kind of pay grid.
Okay. So we don't know is the answer. Member from Laurentian Hills.
So last term, I remember it was during COVID, I sat in on a Zoom council meeting for Mayor Reinwald, and I got paid not by my municipality at all. I got paid by the county only.
Okay.
And there was no mileage then because I just traveled to the town office to do the meeting.
Okay. So
And I was quite surprised to get paid for it, by the way.
Simply put, Chair, and through you to committee, of 17 municipalities, many are paid differently. And we didn't do that full analysis because it doesn't really come into play here. Many municipalities have a salary for their council members. Some of them pay per meeting, right? But you have 17 different functional councils here and paying them differently. But it's not really our concern. Our concern is that paying, I think back to 2018, 2019, is paying 2 members from one municipality to do the same job. Right.
That's the
how that gets balanced out.
Right.
In terms of equity and fairness.
Member from Abbotston Bromley.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I do not disagree with Councillor Schoenfeld. I had not investigated what the compensation was at all when I ran. But what I would say is it's fairly telling that we don't have a whole lot of 30 and 40-year-olds sitting in the room. And I think that they have much more at stake. I don't think it's that the money is what made us run, but I'm inclined to think that it might be the money that keeps others from running. I don't expect them to be making financial sacrifice to be representing their populace. I know that when we're sitting in this room, all one needs to do is look around the room, and with every committee but Health Committee, there are no councillors by name here. They are councillor by where they come from. So why do I care that Councillor Reiki-Schoenfeld is Councillor Reiki-Schoenfeld? She is simply the member from North Algona-Wilberforce. So ultimately, we have allocated this much money to compensate the member from North Algona-Wilberforce. Why do I care who's sitting in the chair? Okay,
So I was 40 when I started this gig, and it did affect my life. So speaking as somebody that definitely downgraded their pay when I started this gig, but I was happy to do so because, as you said, I didn't do this for the money, and I did not know the compensation here. And as the warden pointed out, it's changed dramatically in the last 15 years. So, all right, are we... This one, I thought this was going to be the easy one. I totally agree with this. I think the 60-40 split with an alternate is absolutely fair. All in favor? Oh my goodness, that passes. Again, opposed? Awesome. All right, at this point, we are going to take a 10-minute break. We can reconvene at 11:20, please. Wonderful. Welcome back, everyone. And we are on to benefits. So the recommendation is that the Corporate Services Committee direct staff to return a council remuneration bylaw with the following: the removal of life, health, and dental benefits, the provision for the purchase of out-of-province county medical coverage while on county business, and be effective January 2027. Can I get a mover and seconder to get it on the floor? Moved by the member from Head Clara Mariah, second by the member from McNabb Rayside. Discussion. Member from Greater Madawaska.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. One of the questions I have for, I don't know, it'd be Daniel or Craig, is we used Gallagher a company to put together this report for us. And yet in their report, it doesn't mention anything about the benefits at all that I could see. And then I guess we can just start with that question. Where did this come from, since it wasn't in the Gallagher report?
Thank you. Yes, we'll open it up with that.
Sure, through Madam Chair. So the Gallagher report just notes that it's not commonly done amongst your peers. And again, staff are going back to this concept of total compensation. Right? What do we provide to councillors? And we want to provide enough to have a engaged and active council. And in that vein, we're sort of picking the middle of your peers. Again, so one of your peers has a similar health and dental package. However, it does require a copay, and two of your peers provide life insurance only. So again, it's not a comment on staff's thought about what we should provide, just to note that if we're going to be in the middle of your peers' compensation, this is an outlier.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, yes, because I did notice in the Gallagher report that they didn't say that we were ranked first, they said that we were a leader. Now I take from that we are the visionaries and that we're leading the pack. And we're trying to attract younger people into government, and as mentioned by Councillor Donahue, if you look around the room, some of us are not on the younger group. I'm not going to say who is and who isn't. But if we're going to attract people, I think the benefits is a way to attract people to get into government. And then there will be arguments that, okay, so why isn't it being done at the municipal level? Well, that's something we can take back to our municipalities and perhaps discuss. But right now, it is part of the benefit package at the county. And as you can see, today I sit in a wheelchair, and I think the fact that we did have insurance to assist me with that, because it allows me to get out to these meetings now. It allows me to get out to community events. It allows me to do my job as a mayor and as a county councillor. So these benefits to me were extremely important and will continue to be extremely important as I go through my journey of getting better and paying for the medicine and such. But as I say, the argument will be, why isn't it done at municipal? Well, perhaps we need to take this back and look at municipal, but currently, right now, these benefits are where we have them at the county, and it's part of our compensation. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments. My comment is that I'm not a fan of taking away a service that's been here. So I'm in line with what you were saying. I just wanted to follow up. I've got the member from McNabb Rayside and then Laurentian Hills.
Thank you, Chair. To follow up on Councillor Weir's thing, with what he had to say, based on numbers, the health, dental, life benefits looks like it's $5,169 a year per county councillor. That being said, if we take that away, councillors who don't have dependents will lose less money than councillors that have dependents. The single councillor without dependents is $3,231 a year. The family councillor who has littles at home, that's $6,668 we're taking away from them. So I have a minor, so I'm if I was using county's medical dental, I would be in the 6,668 category. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say perhaps the warden does not have minor children at home at this stage. I don't know if you do, but okay, pick one of you that don't. You're only going to get 3,231 taken away in dollar value. So you're going to get half taken away in value, in compensation by the benefits being canceled, compared to myself getting the same benefits canceled. So it's not equal across the board because everybody has differences. And again, to feed to the attraction issue, unless you're over 65 and getting prescription assistance or whatever from the government, this is going to be the geriatric council. You're not going to get young people here. Now, I will say, in McNabb Braeside, our councils all have medical dental. But that's McNabb Braeside, and we are unique, and I don't utilize the medical dental here. But we don't have life. And I use the life here, and I like the life here. I want to keep that. So, but
Thank you.
It's the difference between family and single. If you take it away from all of us, some of us are going to take 6,000 away. Some of us are taking away 3,000 in a benefit. So it's not equal across the board.
Thank you. The member from Laurentian Hills, please.
Thank you. It's not only children, it's spouses as well. Yeah. So I don't have any littles, but I have a biggie, who's having a tooth pulled right now as just, you know. I'm not in favor of this going away. I think it is a great benefit. For me personally, I was paying monthly, even though I'm a federal retiree. I still had to pay for my benefits when I retired. And the dental, to me, is a great bonus. And yeah, if we're going to attract younger people, we also have to change our hours, but that's not going to happen. But that's my comment. Thank you.
And that's funny because that was a comment that I said to Craig. I think dental will be the biggest thing in the room. A member from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I can't say it any better than Councillor Weir did. It's a service that keeps us on our feet, keeps us healthy, and keeps us attending and keeps us doing what we need to do on behalf of the county.
Thank you for that. Member from Evanston Bromley.
I'll echo Councillor Hodnot's comments. I'm kind of fond of life here too, Councillor Hodnot. But in fact, life, I think, is the only component that I am sharing in. This is unbalanced on the health and dental. I don't think it's universally accessed. I do not, only because through my wife's health and dental program at work, that's where I'm enrolled. But just at the break, we were having a conversation, Councillor Nicholson and I, and no council ever binds a future council, but I think it would have been illuminating. I am presuming that a previous council saw this probably from an attraction and retention perspective, particularly as you read the slideshow, and I think even this is a component that was contained within the Gallagher report, that we are, as Councillor Weir has said, visionaries or leaders in this. So there was a reason that they made the decision to extend to this when very few of our peers were. I am not necessarily bound by that decision that they made, but it would have been, I think, helpful to have understood why they decided to go out in front on this. And I'm only presuming, speculating, but I believe that it probably was precisely for attraction and retention and recognizing, again, the demographic that is in this room. We are skewed to on the P, if we're going to go to the Ps, I think we are definitely P55 in this room, if not higher. So I think that if, in fact, this body is to be representative of the population, then we have to be taking some strides to make it more accessible to those that are below, let us say, P55.
Definitely, I'm coming to you, but just before that, I just want to speak to something that Councillor Watt had asked me about. One of the things that's been predominant in all the recommendations in the Gallagher report were the comparison between council and non-union staff. And I think that his question is quite astute in that if non-union staff are keeping their benefits, why are they taking them away from us? And I think that's a very important factor in what we're looking at here today. Member from Whitewater.
Thank you, Chair. I would just first echo the comments that were made before. I'm not in support of taking away a benefit that we've had before, and it has had some successes in terms of supporting the council and members' participation in our decision-making process. In fact, I'd like to propose that we expand benefits, and the area that I'd like council to consider is childcare. We currently do not have an allowance that recognizes caregivers or single parents that might have to consider what do they do with their child if they would like to participate in our council meetings, in our committee meetings, in our conferences, in advocacy trips. There is no way to recognize, or no way for that compensation to be recognized. I did a little bit of research. I provided a briefing note to the chair, the CAO, and Mr. Belmore on some research that has been done in Western Canada. There are 4 municipalities in Alberta that have adopted primary caregiver benefits or expense claims specific to when they have to sit in council chambers, as well as Sarnia, Ontario, as the 6th municipality that is starting to recognize this. And although I don't think it will be a high demand, it's not going to move the budget needle. I think it is a way for us to recognize that we need to expand participation for those people that want to consider representing their fellow residents, and to be a leader in the area that sets these kinds of norms. So I'd like council to consider that, and I can put a motion forward if need be.
So I'd like to vote on this and then go back to your potential motion, if that's okay. Was there anything further on the benefit package for council? Then I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Oh, boys. Boys. Opposed, if any. Thank you. All right, and that's done. I'm going to go back to the member from Whitewater. Do you have a seconder for your motion to consider childcare? Just the motion, just like that. Yeah. Seconded by the member from Amaston Bromley. Discussion on that, and I would say that it would be sending staff back to investigate what. Sorry, I think I preempted your motion, Neil, because we had the conversation about it.
No, that's exactly it. Asking staff to go back and propose a policy that would reflect that type of initiative.
Wonderful. Okay. Member from Greater Madawaska.
Now that we're looking at that, it's childcare, but do we say childcare or do we say caregiver?
Caregiver.
Because you could have elderly family at home or some other dependent of some sort. So I just want to clarify, we're not just specifically saying childcare.
I think that is the conversation you and I had, and we were using childcare just as the overarching, but it's not.
Yeah, the briefing note does highlight that.
Yeah.
It should be a caregiver policy to recognize primary caregivers.
Is the seconder okay with that? Awesome. All in favor? Perfect. All right. Oh, we're just humming along now. Now we're at number 7, conference expense. The recommendation that the Corporate Services Committee direct staff to return a council remuneration bylaw and travel, conferences, hospitality, and corporate expense reimbursement policy applicable to all staff in council with the following. It says for approval in November 2025 because this particular one is in effect for January 2026. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure everybody read that it was the only one. With the following, the removal of the $3,900 maximum councillor conference budget and the $243 per day per diems, allow for each councillor to attend one provincial conference per year with the chair of a standing committee to attend an additional conference per year, attendance at AMO, Roma, FCM by board members as required up to the council-approved budget, advocacy by councillors at the request of the warden or up to the council-approved budget, advocacy by the warden up to council-approved budget, provide each councillor with a discretionary $1,000 conference budget, transition to a flat rate reimbursement for travel, meal, and mileage claims, cap hospitality expenses at 2 times the applicable per employee meal rate, and be effective January 2026. Can I have a mover and seconder to get it on the floor? Moved by the member from Aaron Pryor, second by the member from Laurentian Hills. Discussion. Don't be shy. Warden?
And again, I think, we've had this conversation about removing, I'm not comfortable in removing the $243 a day per diem, because if someone is working or has to get somebody in to cover something in their homes when they're gone, that's an expense. And, I think, again, it goes back to attraction. If we're going to attract people, we have to be sure that they don't feel that they're paying too large a price to be here or to represent the municipality.
Thank you. Member from Aaron Pryor.
Ditto.
That's what I was going to say too. Member from Amherst Rowling.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Largely, I am in agreement with Councillor Lynch. The only item, the third bullet point, and I think there's variability because, as I understand, AMO and FCM, I don't think pay an honorarium, but we received that report, I think, in about April of I think the Board of Health provides that. So there is, I think it's an odd number, I think it was like $2,043 or something like that. Is that considered an honorarium by Roma? I think we just want to be very careful because this entity, and I know I sat at the Board of Health when there was a conversation regarding remuneration there. So the County of Renfrew does not provide any compensation to the 4 members that are delegated to the Board of Health, but the Board of Health provides compensation to the members that attend, and it is part of the provincial and municipal, that is the City of Pembroke, County of Renfrew, and the Township of South Algonquin, along with the funding partner of the province. They are providing funds, so the Board of Health members do in fact receive compensation from that entity. So I think wherever compensation is provided by an outside agency, that it not be, but I don't even know if that amount from Roma is considered an honorarium or what it's meant, or perhaps expenses. I wonder if Mr. Burke can shed some light on that.
So my expenses for Roma goes through the County of Renfrew. So I submit to Gwen that I have been to October 16th and 17th at Roma. I had mileage of 400 or whatever it is kilometers. This time I had no mileage. I make it very clear. I get paid by the County of Renfrew. Roma then in turn compensates the county back. The per diem at Roma is less than the 243, but as the member from here, I do get the 243 per day. But the other thing was about conference and hotels. So as a member of the Roma board, they pay for my entire Roma conference, and they in fact pay for a lot of AMO as well. So even though this is going to, there are considerations in this, there are going to be other factors that will not speak to this bylaw. So even though if you look at our remuneration, it looks as though the county paid for me to go to Roma, they did not. There is a revenue line associated with my expenses. I'm assuming it's the same with FCM. Sorry, I think that was all you asked. Sorry.
Thank you. Just follow and understood. The thing that I think bears conversation is, and I don't know what it is now. I think when I last was on the Board of Health, I think it might have been the meeting compensation was $170. There is not an augmentation of that to bring it. To bring it, was it not?
No.
Whatever it may be.
It's 175.
Okay, 175. So there is not an augmentation to make the Board of Health delegates paid at our honorarium of $243. So is that something that, like, say, if we're not doing that with the Board of Health, I don't know what the compensation is that Roma pays, but is that reasonable that we would augment all of the outside agencies that are paid by that agency up to our $243? If that's the case, then that would be close to $75 a meeting for each of the 4 Board of Health designated.
I think that's a little different case when we're actually being paid by the Board of Health, whereas all of my expenses for Roma go through this body. I think that's the difference. So I would not, I think the 175 is adequate for the Board of Health, in my opinion. Oh, sorry.
I'm just going to help you out a little bit. So if I can through you. So that's, I don't, I'm obviously not going to disagree with that. This particular just deals with conferences, not necessarily appointments to boards or otherwise, right? So I take your point. This motion just speaks to conferences and attendance by that, not at meetings. That would be more of a, on the ad hoc piece later on, or that we've discussed.
Or previous.
Or that's our previous, right? Yeah, so.
Ultimately, to distill the question is, so whatever that amount was, it was slightly over $2,000. I don't know, and I recognize in this instance that in fact the county receives that as an offset to whatever it has provided to a member of Roma. But if in fact that is meant to be the honorarium for attending meetings, then it seems reasonable that likewise they are paying the member to be at the meetings as the Board of Health is paying the Board of Health members to be at the meetings.
Okay, so can we revisit that when we're back at ad hoc then, please? Because this is about conferences, so we can revisit that.
Oh, I see, okay,
Yeah.
so
the only reason AMO, Roma, and FCM are there is because they are conferences. Go ahead.
My only comment, judging by the temperature in the room on this one, is the per diem seems to be the sticking point on the entire resolution, right? So I'm just suggesting that if it is to be amended, so as opposed to not losing it all, is that somehow we just suggest that it be compensated as per policy or something, that the motion be amended to include that, as opposed to an actual amount, because then the whole motion doesn't get lost.
Okay, I don't think
See
that's
where
a
I'm going
friendly
with it?
amendment either.
It is certainly not.
No. See, I didn't have a problem with removing the 3,900 because that's sort of an arbitrary amount as well. If we're allowed to go to one conference, that's basically all of that 3,900. So I didn't necessarily have an issue with that, but I did have an issue with the per diem. But then I liked some of the other nuances. But I will tell you that every county councillor that I spoke to prior to this meeting was very confused about that discretionary $1,000. So I think that Daniel sort of made it clearer when he presented earlier. I'm feeling a little more solid in what that means, but especially for the small ones, like if we have OSUM or Ontario East. Thank you. Yeah. So, member from Whitewater.
My question is, and I believe it's on a different slide, I can't remember where it talks about, but where there's no exchange between members of council within an allocation. And if we were to adopt the new policy, it would essentially be that if I had used my one provincial conference already and Councillor Donahue was unable to attend to use his that year, the current policy doesn't allow him to say, you take my spot and go.
And it never did. Yeah, it's been talked about ad nauseum since I've been sitting here. So if I don't use my conference budget, and Dan has already gone to Roma and he wants to go to AMO, but that's going to exceed, then could he use mine? And we've honestly, we've debated this a lot. And that's why I think the wording of allow for each counselor to attend one conference per year. I like that.
Okay, and I can appreciate that if there's no, the temperature in the room is like that. I just want to recognize that some members of council may have more of an appetite or desire to attend and represent and learn from, and their attendance at multiple meetings brings back something for the chamber as a whole. There is an investment that we get a return on from that professional development. And although I'm talking about delivering a capability, how we get there, I could care less. But if there was a consideration, and I believe there is, the warden could include this other member as part of advocacy efforts or something to that effect. But I just want to recognize that attending more than one conference a year or more than a conference plus $1,000, there is benefit to it for those people that have the appetite or the availability for it.
So if my memory is correct, and I will rely on the warden to discredit or agree with what I'm about to say, the argument was that if the county of Renfrew is paying for one conference, then your municipality should be paying for the other large one. Because it used to be Roma Ogra and then AMO. So one entity would pay for one and then the other would pay for the other if you were going to go to both. But is that the way you,
Well, I'm not sure if it was ever official. I know that that's how I manipulated the system. Yes.
Okay, that's two. Member from Renfrew and then Emerson Bromley.
Thank you, Chair. I'll get a little closer to the mic. In our part, we have the same, we're allowed to go to one. Mm-hmm. And if we have people on council who don't go to any, we had our former MPP take their position at that council. So he went to Roma, he went to AMO, and Mr. Burnett did not. So we allowed that transfer over in that he get one meeting, one conference per year. Unless another person doesn't want to go, then you can use his with their approval. And there's a bylaw to say that. Also, whoever took the extra conference had to come back to council and do a report on what he did and what he learned to further enhance the council.
By all means, that should be in every single council. Member from Emerson Bromley and then our CAO.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just wanted to say I'm quite certain that what Councillor Emo went is he rigidly adheres to the policies. He does not manipulate the policy. From my perspective on the conferences, like Councillor Nicholson, there is value. I did not attend conferences for quite some time after I was first elected, only beginning after I became mayor, frankly. There is a value returned not even just to professional development, but I think to our ratepayers. In fact, once one embarks in this particular room to engage with folks right across the province and ultimately almost universally find we're not inventing the wheel. They are experiencing things in other parts of the province of Ontario. There is no place to have as concentrated engagement, not the bullpit, not the delegations, but just informally at the top of the escalator with ministers of the Crown, etc. There is an inherent and quite valuable component to the participation. As I had said at the first meeting where we engaged on this, if one presumes at a conference that they're there for an 8-hour day or a regular day, I'm talking exclusively the two conferences that I attend, which is Roma and AMO. Ultimately, if we were to put that 243, it would put us at, I think, level 3 on the staff wage grid, which is third from the least amount of paid. So I don't think that it is an unreasonable amount. And I think that it does continue to provide value, like I said, to this corporate entity, the Municipal Corporation of the County of Renfrew, to us as individuals, but I think largely to our population. And I'm not actually in favor of reducing this. I'd be more than happy to remove the prohibition on sharing. But outside of that, I don't support this this motion at all.
Okay, so I've read the room. We're going to vote on the recommendation as it sits, and then we're going to go back and remove some stuff, potentially add some stuff. All in favor of this recommendation? Opposed? Awesome. All right. Now, what I'm hearing is that we do not want the first bullet point, the 3,900 and the 243. We're going to leave the 243, but the 3,900, I still think that the...
So just to understand, you're introducing an entire new motion.
Well, I want to understand what the room is saying before I do that. So do you want me to read this again without that line? Or are we all know what we're voting on? So I would need a mover and seconder.
I'm sorry, I really think staff needs to be clear what you're voting on, because right now you've removed the entire motion.
Yes.
Right, so there's no motion on the floor.
So
right,
now,
so now I'm just suggesting that there needs to be a motion on the floor from someone, not the chair.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
No,
no, I know.
I didn't move it.
No, I know. I just wanted to be, I'm not suggesting you did.
No,
but I'm just trying to be clear what we're doing.
It's the exact same recommendation with the removal of bullet number 1. I'm sorry, the second half of bullet number 1, because the 3,900 is then clarified later on. All right, moved by the member from McNabb Braeside, seconded by the member from Petawawa. Discussion.
Sorry, what is the motion on the floor?
The exact same recommendation as we just defeated, except for the second half, the $243 per day per diems is removed from this recommendation that we've now moved and seconded. Do you? Yeah, I'll read it again.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
But I caution that if you just, we have no idea how to compensate you for this. And that's what I suggested, that it should say at least be compensated as per policy.
All right.
Because right now,
okay,
since we're already considering 3 postponed amendments to talk about per diems and all these other things, I would just suggest that you insert and be compensated as per policy.
Because we don't know what the per diem might be.
Correct.
All right. So I am going to read this again. That the Corporate Services Committee directs staff to return a council remuneration bylaw and travel conferences, hospitality, and corporate expense reimbursement policy applicable to all staff in council for approval in November 2025 with the following. The removal of the 3,900 maximum councillor conference budget and per diem of said policy.
No, it's actually a new point.
Oh, you want it as, well, it was in there like that. So you read it.
That the Corporate Services Committee directs staff to return a council remuneration bylaw and travel, conferences, hospitality, and corporate expense reimbursement policy applicable to all staff and council for approval in November 2025 with the following. The removal of the $3,900 maximum council conference budget, allow for each councillor to attend 1 provincial conference per year with the chair of a standing committee to attend an additional conference per year, attendance at AMO, Roma, FCM by board members as required up to the council approved budget, advocacy by councillors at the request of the warden or up to the council approved budget, advocacy by the warden up to the council approved budget, provide each councillor with a discretionary $1,000 conference budget, compensation, and that councillors be compensated as per policies, and transition to a flat rate reimbursement for travel, meal, and mileage claims, cap hospitality expenses at 2 times the applicable per employee meal rate, and be effective January 2026.
Thank you. All right, so I've got McNabb, Braeside, and Petawawa as the mover and seconder.
You did, but I added the piece about compensation.
No, the question was, are we adding in a line regarding sharing of...
You want that
Yeah.
now part of it?
Well, that was, if somebody doesn't use their allotted one per year.
So Chair, I'm going to go out on a limb here. So what you're suggesting is actually a whole redrafting of our conference policy, which will actually take more time than a minute here, because that affects a number of items. So if someone's not going, how does that get deferred? How does that, if Councillor Service doesn't go, is it a motion of council to say this other council, who makes that suggestion of who to go because I can't go? It's not as easy as just wiping that out, understand? It's not a simple mathematical equation. There are municipalities that do that. There's one pot of money, is $100,000, whatever that pot is. And at the beginning of the year, for instance, council members apply to council on what they want to go to, and then they parse it out between those two, and then whatever's left over gets, there's a number of ways to skin this one. And I just would hate to just throw a policy and a motion on the floor today to accomplish that.
Okay, and it's been defeated many, many, many times over. I was just saying, I was wondering if there was discussion. Go ahead, member from Whitewater.
Maybe the thought is just to amend the recommendation to include, sorry, the current one that's on. Sorry, just to ask staff to look at that. I agree, there has to be a very simplistic way to add it in if we want to. Not something I want to put staff on the spot right now to try to figure out.
That was the road I was going to go down. Perhaps that this is a conversation for another day. Member from Aaron Pryor.
I wasn't thinking of another day, Chair. I was thinking something along the line that if Councillor Service does not want to go to Roma, then the decision by council, his place will be by Councillor Donahue. Council makes that decision, who can replace who at that time. Because somebody may go 3 times, not just one.
But what our CAO is saying is that that's an actual conference policy that is... Okay.
Direct staff to come back with policy.
All right. Staff direction to come back with a conference policy. Yeah. I think that's fair. A member from Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards.
Unless I was going out for a coffee, but where did the shared conferences come from? Where did that come from? I don't remember us talking about this.
Oh, this chamber hasn't, but previous have quite a bit, actually. Yeah.
So do we want to even talk about this?
Well, I think for today, we'd like to get this settled because this does affect 2026. So I think if staff want to come back and with an idea of how that might work, perhaps that's something for the 2027 term as well, and not for this chamber. What? Why are you laughing at me? I wasn't laughing.
Whatever you want.
I would prefer to go with the recommendation on the floor and then handle sharing later. Thank you, Daniel. That's exactly the words I was going to use. Warden.
Thank you. Yes, could I suggest that the check mark and the word "and," the check mark be taken out and the A on "and" be taken off and it's just attached to the end of conference budget, because I think that's all the same sentence rather than 2 separate bullet points. So when you go to...
Daniel and I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. When you go to provide each councillor with a discretionary $1,000 conference budget, and then remove that check mark, and yes, remove, and then, perfect. There, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that was a friendly amendment. So let's vote on this and then we can talk about staff. Do you want a motion for staff direction or just nods of head?
This is it.
Okay, good enough. All in favor? Hands up? Okay, that passes. Opposed? Excellent. And now we move on to Deputy Warden, a recommendation that the Corporate Services Committee direct staff to return a council remuneration bylaw with the following: the Deputy Warden position be compensated with an annual premium of $3,000, annual increases each year 2028 to 2030, matching the non-union salary increase, a compensation review be returned prior to the end of council term, and be effective January 2027. May I have a mover and seconder to get it on the floor? Moved by the member from Petawawa, seconded by the member from Greater Madawaska. Discussion. Member from Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, I don't mind this recommendation. I'm wondering if we could add a job description as part of this.
I fully agree with you, and I would like to see, I would also entertain taking that $3,000 out of the warden's salary. Oh. What's that?
Through you, Chair. So the current job description,
Is
not the county councillor members have, or the warden has a job description either. The deputy warden, as per the procedure bylaw, when requested by the warden, the deputy warden shall represent the warden at ceremonial functions or events. Right? I mean, it's really that vague.
It's really comprehensive.
It's incredibly comprehensive.
Yeah.
Other duties as required. That would be interesting. We'll have to, as more of a comment, is to determine a job description for what a council member does, or deputy warden. Sorry, what a deputy warden does. It really is other duties as assigned. Right. But
Member from Greater Madawaska.
understood.
Thank you. Although it's not the recommendation on the floor, your comment that it should be taken out of the warden's salary, I disagree with. I think if the warden's position has grown to the point of being that busy and having that many responsibilities that deputy warden is required, then I suggest that we move with the times and leave the warden's salary as is, and then pay the extra to the deputy wardens, because if it's required, then it's required. It's part of doing business.
The good news is my crazy notion is not part of this recommendation. So, further discussion. Member from Renfrew.
Thank you, Chair. Just the other little line underneath for the job description is when the warden is not here, that the deputy warden will then become the warden for the general meetings?
No.
Can't do that?
In our procedural, it's the former warden, and if there is no former warden, then they are elected from the floor to be warden that day.
Thank you.
Member from Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards.
Thank you. Just looking at the deputy warden's salaries, we're talking $3,000, and just take a look at the other salaries. The averages are $25,000. There's some teeth behind that. So what other than going to the odd event for $3,000, if we want a deputy warden, then we want to make it worthwhile. Like, not, you know what I mean? That's just basically a comment.
But at this time, it is a ceremonial position. I think that's, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the council member. So just to clarify, I think it was earlier clarified, and we'll just try to say it again. So I think in the case of Hastings, for example, Hastings, I'm not sure how it worked out. If I remember, Warden Phillips, I think back in the time, they created the deputy warden and created it was $10,000 extra to that, so that whatever that slide is, $17,000 or whatever it is, or Hastings is 17. The council member for Hastings makes 6 and plus 10.
Yeah.
Right. So it's an additional 10,000, whatever that amount. It's an additional amount to that in many cases. I'm not saying it's in every case. It's a differential, right? So we have to get down. Again, you got the numbers from here. I'm not sure if they're all consistent with each other, but Daniel can speak to that.
I do believe they are. So when we compare deputy warden salaries here, that wouldn't be over and above a councillor salary. That would be your whole salary. So it would include that councillor. So when we talk about just a premium, you know, it varies, but it averages about $3,000 over and above a councillor.
Member from
I was just looking at face value, so that's...
Member from Edmundston Bromley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to be clear, so there is the chart of the salaries in Hastings. It's $1,238 is the augmentation to a regular councillor's pay to deputy warden. So I scarcely think that there's too many ceremonies that the deputy attends for $1,250. Why I can't support this right now as it is being discussed and presented is what is the expectation? Where there are deputy wardens, is it simply ceremonial? Right? Is there any signing authority? This wasn't captured in the Gallagher report. It's not here. So if we're going to be making an informed decision, how do I know what their expectations are of their deputy warden? Hastings just popped out at me because it was the first one, I think, on the council. I think they're the lowest paid, perhaps, members of council, so that's why I have $1,238. I don't know what the augmentation is, say, for Bruce County, that is shown at $28,000 versus the straight council pay. So ultimately, I am in favor, kind of similar to, I guess, the child care or care that was amended to, is that there's an investigation of that. I'm loath to actually create the deputy warden position today based on the information in front of us, because I'd like a little bit more investigation and conversation of what our expectations might be of that job. Ultimately, have we created a warden's position that very few people that sit in this room would be able to fulfill the duties of that? That's what I'm perceiving as a deputy warden, is perhaps now that position has outgrown our expectations and there should be more investigation done.
Is there anything further than, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were pointing at Daniel.
No, I'm pointing at myself. So I just want to, I totally understand your points and get it. At the moment, the position is created. It's in your procedure bylaw. There are people that do actually there's nobody appointed in this particular calendar year. But should there be an acting warden's a different position. If there's a deputy warden taking place for a ceremonial event, they would be compensated on a per diem basis as per the policy, which is 243. So if this fails, the deputy warden position, if appointed, will be paid as the current rate. Right? That's all we're suggesting, that this is a change to that policy, not in terms of creating a new job. The job's created.
But if I may, this wouldn't be in effect till the next term of council anyway, so.
The compensation for that job.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. Member for Edmundston Bromley.
Just based on the 3,000, that'd be 12 events. That's what the 243 would get you. 12 events will get it done for $3,000. I don't know how that would compare to both your, Madam Chair, and Councillor Lynch's functions as deputies when you were doing it. Is that reasonable? Is that typically approximate to what your engagement would have been in a year?
I don't know, maybe 2, but I didn't put in for the per diem. I don't know if somebody else did or not. I don't.
Well, there's only one somebody else.
So,
Probably an identifiable individual. Probably want to avoid that one.
We did mileage, and that was for Gerald at the Eganville.
Yeah.
And we did the CNL opening of the new building for the administration, and we did the night walk. So those are the 3 things, and I got paid mileage only.
Okay. I don't know when the last one I did was. Anyway, go ahead, Warden.
10 a year, and they've been, sorry, I had a ladybug drop in.
We got flies, we got ladybugs.
Just went, landed on the mic, so. So yeah, about 10 a year. And most of them all of them have been, for the most part, ceremonial. We've been very fortunate whenever there's been significant events where there's been a conflict. We've been able to, Gwen or Craig have been able to manipulate the meetings so that I could attend them. So I think going forward, you're going to be looking at a deputy warden who may be in meetings of substance with community partners representing the view of chambers. Just because there's so many things going on, it's very difficult to schedule your your ability to respond, especially if you have lower tier responsibilities at the same time as warden. So I think, I don't think you can answer all the questions today about the deputy warden position, but I think you, in all sincerity, it has to evolve, as someone said, and we should start defining it, because they may have to speak for the county and the warden at some point at significant events, just because of the conflicts.
But then if that's your opinion of the deputy warden, then perhaps that 3,000 shouldn't be 3,000. Maybe it should be more. But without a job description, we certainly can't make that decision today. If it's going to take it out of the realm of pomp and circumstance into actual policy, that's a completely different job. Warden?
Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to suggest policy. What I would suggest, though, is that there would need to be some prep for them to attend a meeting, and so they may attend some of the preparation meetings with the warden of the day, once a week or once every 2-week basis or whatever. If there's something significant coming up, for instance, the housing file in the next few years, in theory, should get active. And the warden will be busy with that, and probably the deputy warden would have a role when the warden's not around for that. So,
okay, well, I think in the void, not really knowing, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of this recommendation? Opposed? And that's defeated. Could I have a mover and seconder, I guess, to give staff direction as we did with the caregiver? Moved by, for a job description, and I think the warden would have to weigh in on that. Moved by McNabb Brayside, seconded by Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards. Discussion? All in favor? Okay, I think that makes a lot more sense. Sandwiches are here. We do still have to go back to number 1, 3, 4, and 5. Would you like to take a quick break, or do you want to keep going? Yeah, okay. So we will take a 20-minute break to eat, and we will resume at, actually, I'll say 12:40. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so we are going to do these a bit out of order. We're going back to the ad hoc stipend number 1, which is number 4 in your package. And it is removal of the ad hoc stipend of $2.43 per meeting. There is a mover and seconder on the floor, so I will open it up to discussion. The member from Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. I already said that I'd oppose that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? All in favor of removing the stipend? All opposed? Excellent, thank you. And now we're gonna go back to, what? I know, I'm just saying. And everybody figured out how to vote too, which I really like. I think that we're gonna do, maybe we do council salary, then warden salary. So, again, there is a mover and seconder on the floor with the base councillor salary of $25,709. This is beginning in 2027, and annual increases of the COLA from 28 to 30. Conversation. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just want to clarify, we didn't get, because we did this earlier,
Yes.
we didn't get an amendment for approval in January 2027. It's still in that original motion, right?
You are
So I just want to make
correct.
sure that if it's the will of committee to make an amendment to
Right,
remove
that was the,
right?
that
That's
was the
we
only
did.
one that I missed though,
Well,
correct?
that and the warden salary,
And
number
the
1 and number
wardens-
2.
Okay.
Still have that wording in the
All right,
original motion.
so, and you're saying it's not a friendly amendment? It's not, okay. So then I'm going to ask all in favor of it saying for approval in January of 2027, all in favor? Opposed? Excellent. Now I'm going to read it again, that the Corporate Services Committee directs staff to return a council remuneration bylaw with the following: a base councillor salary of $25,709 per year, annual increases from 2028 to 2030, consistent with the non-union salary increase, a compensation review be returned prior to the end of the council term, and be in effect as of January 2027. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by the member from Head Clare Mariah, seconded by the member from Petawawa. Discussion. Member from Amaston Bromley, and then Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Pleased to be the starter for Amaston Bromley today. I am not in favor of P55. I certainly recognize that that is what we have done for staff, and appropriately so. If committee will recall, when we did this for staff, we were having a pretty significant issue with attraction and retention. Because prior to the decision to adopt the P55 target, I think we were 50 on staff as well. I think particularly as we have had a very robust discussion today of various other components that are part of the complete compensation package here at the County of Renfrew, I am certainly satisfied with P50, and I see no value in necessarily tying staff to council. There were about 3 or 4 slides on here where staff was creeping into our discussion today about council remuneration. I'm not bothered in the slightest by an asymmetrical policy that would exist for staff and council. I was just, prior to coming back to order, I was identifying that the only job offers that I am getting as mayor are provided to me by LinkedIn. Just on Monday, I was provided notice that there were 7 opportunities across the country. Now, I didn't pursue them. I don't know precisely where, but I expect that my mayor skills are really not transportable. The fact that I do not live in Trail, British Columbia probably is going to be a limiting factor. To be quite serious about it, I cannot imagine that the comparators are necessarily going to draw me, i.e. I'm not likely to move to Lanark because they have a better compensation package than I do, but it would not be at all surprising if we have staff that do in fact move from one municipality to another. They are full-time jobs. Of course they are going to do that. So I am quite satisfied with P50, so I am opposed to this resolution.
Thank you. Member from Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards.
Thank you, Chair. As I brought up earlier, in regards to how many other municipalities are system of committee of the whole. As a first-year counselor, I've noticed a major increase in the amount of work and reading material to be prepared for each of our meetings. And the thing that sticks out in my mind is that we're always trying to play catch-up every fourth year, it seems like. So I'm not sure if we should not be looking at a higher amount for the course of the 4 years, because I really feel our workload has really increased. Just in my third year, the amount of reading material and to be prepared for each meeting has increased dramatically. So that's the point I wanted to make.
Thank you. Anything further? I see none. I'm going to call for the vote.
Can I have a recorded vote, please, Madam Chair?
Absolutely. We were prepared, right, Gwen?
Actually, if I may, and I will certainly defer, Madam Chair, to you and to the CA, well, perhaps the clerk. I'm wondering if it might be more concise to introduce an amendment. It is simply the P that I am referring to, i.e. P50 versus P55. The other elements that are associated with this, I am in approval. I'm deferring to you as, would it be more practical to move an amendment that it be associated with P50 on that specific, and if that is either successful or defeated, then I could support it afterwards, but I certainly would defer.
Yeah, it probably
No,
would.
thank you, Chair, and to the question through you. So the resolution obviously doesn't speak to P55. The amount arrived at that's the 25,709 was derived from being P55. So if it would be an amendment that the base salary be commensurate with P50 as opposed to P50, that would be an amendment to that, and that's how we would have to arrive at a different number then.
So if I might, Madam Chair, and I will defer it once again to you, but I would move that it be amended such that the first bullet point, that the base counselor salary of $24,593 per year, commencing in January of 2027.
Do you have a seconder? I see none. Oh,
Second it, get it on the floor.
okay. Discussion on changing it from P55 to P50, which would be approximately $1,000. Yeah. No discussion. All in favor?
I would seek a recorded vote on this, Madam Chair.
Councillor Donahue?
In favor.
Sorry. Warden Nemo?
Opposed.
Councillor Giardini? Opposed. Councillor Grills? Councillor Hodnott?
Opposed.
Councillor Lynch?
Opposed.
Councillor Mayville?
Opposed.
Councillor Murphy?
Opposed.
Councillor Nicholson? Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Councillor Reiki Schoenfeld?
Opposed.
Councillor Service?
Opposed.
Councillor
Just Rob.
Doncaster? No, sorry.
Just
Weir.
Thank you. Opposed.
The motion has failed, 9-1.
Thank you. 10, yeah. Rob's vote didn't count, apparently. He looked very confused. He was like, I am here. All right, so back to the original recommendation of the council salary. Do you want to record it? Did you want a recorded vote again? Councillor Donahue? You had originally asked for a recorded vote. You're good? Okay. All in favor? Excellent. Opposed, if any? And that carries. All right. And finally, number 2, the warden's salary. I'm going to ask for the vote because this did say for approval in January 2027. All in favor? Opposed? Awesome, that's defeated. Now, a recommendation that the Corporate Services Committee direct staff to return a council remuneration bylaw with the following: a base warden salary of $74,581 a year, no annual increases be provided in the 2027 to 2030 years, a compensation review be returned prior to the end of council term, and be in effect as of January 2027. Could I have a new mover and seconder, please? Moved by McNabb Brayside, second by Head Clara Mariah. Discussion. Member from Amiston Bromley.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So, and this council or a future council can pull this back and engage on it again. I'm just a little bit concerned about the 2027 to 2030. If in fact the intent of this is to slowly back the warden of this municipality in line with our comparators, if that in fact happens faster than the end of the next term of council, then in fact we will be diminishing, we will be below once again with warden. Now, as I said, I'm assuming that that will be monitored fairly carefully by staff moving forward, but it is entirely possible over those 4 years that we may in fact see a dramatic change in how the warden of the county of Renfrew compares with our comparators.
Well, again, I think that, our counterparts will probably be going through similar reviews, but I would say that, you get through year 1 and year 2. If you're doing a review in year 3, a compensation review has to be done before the end of that term. So I think it's probably in line. I would also say that we are quite high as compared to others. I thought that this was an excellent recommendation. Was there anything further? Member from Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards.
Sorry to keep going back at this, but the phrase red circle,
Yes.
I'm concerned about that. I think a minimum, the position should also carry the same as everyone else. Annual increases consistent with the non-union salary increase. I think that should, if I could make an amendment to put that in.
That is not an amendment. That would be a whole new motion. Are you making that motion?
Yes, I would like to.
Do you have a seconder? Seconded by the member from Greater Madawaska. I'm sorry. The member from Amiston Bromley. What the member from Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards is asking for is that the base salary of warden be the $74,581 with annual increases as the same as our council salary or non-union staff. All right. With that, I'll open it up for discussion for the new motion on the floor. Member from Amiston Bromley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that defeats the entire intent. Ultimately, I cannot say with any sort of precision what the other comparator municipalities use as their guidance for their remuneration. I'm given to believe that it's probably COLA. So if in fact everybody is increasing by COLA, the warden of Renfrew County relative to our comparators is never going to change. We will always be at the higher end. Now, perhaps they will have other factors that they will give consideration to, but ultimately, if all of the boats are lifted by the same tide, then our relative position on our warden remuneration is not going to change.
Okay. Member from Greater Madawaska.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I'm always seeing that we are the leaders in paramedicine, RV VTAC, MESA, and we're leaders in a lot of areas. And I can't speak to it because I haven't been warden, but I think that our warden's position is probably larger than other warden positions, but I can't speak to that. But workload-wise, I think as the county increases, I think the warden's salary should be reflective of the cost of living, at least going forward. And I say, warden, I don't know if you can expand on your workload in comparison to other wardens without mentioning any names so we don't have to go into camera. But I was just wondering, how is your workload compared to others? Because you sit on so many things as well.
Well, I think it's, so let me break the province down into districts. If you take a look at Central Ontario, my workload is likely heavier in terms of a time commitment of doing the pick and shovel work of wardenism, which is making phone calls and sending emails, whereas the Central Ontario folks can bump into a minister or a deputy minister at social events. So the pick and shovel piece for us is a lot more intense. I think the wardens in other areas have more social activities, social events where they're going to, you see them at Chamber of Commerce breakfast a lot. If you follow them on social media. They have a lot of golf tournaments where they're going, just over the line, which is maybe a half hour from their home in the summertime. So they have a very concentrated social calendar, whereas ours is, spent a lot of time on the phone or writing emails or answering emails or meeting with people. So I think the workload is different, and because of our geographic isolation, I think ours is it's a little more strenuous a role sometimes, because you do a lot of driving as well to get to places, and they may not do as much. Some of them have, and this is not a criticism, some of them have more administrative support. Some of them have a personal assistant that travels with them, which I don't think is necessary, but that's their choice. And then you go to the northern districts again, and they may be more intense than even I am in terms of travel and the need to interact with officials. So it's I think ours is much more, as I say, the pick and shovel part of the warden's position than some others.
I would also add to that, if I may. I couldn't agree more. And there are wardens, at least when I was the warden for those 3 years, there were other wardens from southwestern Ontario, central Ontario, that literally, they looked like they were ministers with their staff behind them with their bags. So they have a lot more administrative support. But I would also add that the Eastern Ontario, you want to talk about being leaders in our field, the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, they do such phenomenal work. It is an amazing organization, and there's a heck of a lot that goes into being a formative part of that organization as well. So I think that there are, it also depends on the year. I mean, Peter hasn't had a natural disaster or pandemic yet. Just saying. Member from Adamston Bromley.
A couple of queries, I think, probably for Mr. Burke. So we have our comparators. So we don't need to look at other comparators. If we're accepting that those are the comparators for every other discussion that we've had here today, then it seems reasonable that those would be the comparators for the warden as well. I don't know, as Councillor Weir has suggested, we have nothing before us to suggest what the workload is for any other warden, but we didn't have that information for any other decisions that we've been making today either. Those are the comparators. This is the first that anybody has suggested that we use different comparators. The other thing that I'm kind of interested in is what is considered part of the base warden and what is considered part of the per diem for the warden.
Oh.
Through you, Chair, you're going to put me on the spot here.
I'd actually throw that to Peter.
I believe the distinction, is if the meeting is out of the county of Renfrew, it is eligible for a per diem, and if it is within the bounds of the county of Renfrew, there is no per diem for either conference or ad hoc. I think that's the line.
Okay, number one, I think I misunderstood the question, but I didn't think as warden we ever put in a per diem for anything. Oh, I never did.
Yeah.
Okay.
The actual, I don't have it in front of me, Jeff, right there. There are per diems allowed in certain circumstances. And it's spelled out.
You owe me money, Craig.
Well, and there's a lot of folks that do or don't put in things around here.
I know. Oh,
Now,
Who knew?
sorry, just to clarify, is the question though, what is the amount? Like, do you want a tangible amount, or do you want just the policy?
Well,
Is that even you're
perhaps,
dealing with personal information at the moment? No.
Madam Chair, by your leave, in response to Mr. Kelly, perhaps the amount, but I'm curious of, once again, we're down to talking about what's the job description? What are the expectations of base versus what are the expectations over and above base? Now, for all I know, ad hoc may be getting paid to the warden as it is getting paid to committee members, i.e. this afternoon there is a city-county intermunicipal committee. I don't know how that functions. By Mr. Burke's answer, that would not be a per diem because it's within the county. So what I'm trying to get at is, so for the warden salary and per diem, it's an increase in 2025 of 3% over 2024. For council salaries, it's 11%, but that is incorporating the substantial change, the phase-in of the $6,000 that we decided in 2022. So ultimately, it is to be expected that there is going to be a disparity between the increase when we decided that we were going to increase substantially to whatever the P was in 22 versus the warden. So ultimately, it's not that it's not increased, but I think that our relative position within our comparator group is precisely the same, if not in fact higher on the chart than it was in 2022. So if in 2022 we felt that we were out of alignment high on the warden, we've not gained anything.
no, and I'm sorry, I thought your question was, in that, whatever the salary is this year, just call it $70,000. Of the $70,000, how much was sort of base and how much would have been considered per diem for the amount of meetings? Sorry, I thought that's what your question was. But that's why I was throwing it to you, because you would know better than anybody.
Actually, I don't.
It's just one big blur.
Yeah, I don't really pay attention.
Okay.
Until, I do pay attention at the end of the year when we have the January financial statement, so every month you see how much you, because some say AMO, some say Roma, FCM, then they say ad hoc. So that's the only time, like every so often I notice. So I don't know today because I haven't looked at it recently.
I'm sorry, once again, I'm taking that 70 grand and is 40 of it your salary and then say 30 meetings that you've gone to that would be considered a per diem?
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry, the 74,000 is or whatever that 70,000 number is the salary, and then there's a per diem on top.
But not for everything, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Okay, so how many of those 74,000, how much of that money do you think is actually for going to meetings as opposed to a salary for you prepping, being here at the county, the pick and shovel stuff that you were talking about?
So let's do a little differently. I average 15 meetings or events a
Every 2
month.
weeks.
To be cautious, let's say a month.
Okay,
Yeah. So
all right.
yeah.
Yeah, it was of interest only because a lot of the stuff that's been talked about is the non-comparators. And what we're looking at are warden salaries for other municipalities, but we don't know what their, to Rob's point, we don't know what their per diem rules are. Go ahead, Craig.
So it just, I want to caution, let's talk about the position, not the person, right? Because this is where it gets, the rules of a bylaw 2525, your remuneration bylaw that you've adopted, right? And you're more than welcome to take a look at it, is that the per diem allowance, this is for the warden particularly, the per diem allowance for meeting attendance and ceremonial functions is discontinued, okay? However, further in the bylaw, the per diem rate for out of county travel is established at $243 and applies to the warden and council members for each day they're attending an event outside the county, including time spent traveling to and from an event outside the county. The per diem rate for ad hoc committee meetings, provincial committee appointment meetings, and other special meetings, legal, recruitment, etc., and out-of-county meetings will be $2.43 and applies to the warden and council members for each day that is approved by the warden and CAO, and will be set for the 4-year term ending in 2026. So, in fact, I think it was referenced that there's a meeting this afternoon of an ad hoc committee. The warden does get a per diem for that as well.
Okay, nobody's understanding what I'm asking, so it's okay.
Well, I think this is clarifying that there is a salary, so all the things that the warden does, takes phone calls, replies to emails like you all do, there's a salary to do that as acting as the warden, and then on occasion there are several ad hoc committees or other meetings that happen throughout the year that the warden also gets a per diem to do that.
Okay,
Well, not today. Today's a committee meeting, but other than committee and other than the regular meetings, if you will.
okay, but that's where, it's okay, forget it. I wasn't making myself clear, but I'll move along. So we do have the motion on the floor to include the COLA for that 27 to 30 timeframe. So I will call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Oh, I'm sorry. Sure. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's defeated. Okay. So now we're going back to the original recommendation where we've had the approval of the January 27 taken out. I have a mover and seconder. All in favor? Opposed? And that also carries. All right. Excuse me, I'm getting breaking news. I'm asking, is there direction for ad hoc conference per diem rate less than 4 hours? Well, it wouldn't be conference. We're never, yeah, okay, rate less than 4 hours at $125, greater than 4 hours at $250, increased by non-union CPI. All right, moved by the member for, and second by, okay, Aviston Bromley and Armprior. Discussion.
Sorry if I may, as the mover, this is to essentially establish a bifurcated per diem.
That is
one
correct,
for a
sir.
part day. Okay, thank you.
That is correct. Okay, well, you've heard it on the, is there anything further? All in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Back to you at the desk. All right, okay. Oh my goodness, we made it through by the skin of our teeth. All right, so we have no communications, no consent reports, no discussion reports, no verbal reports, no closed session. Is there any other new or other business?
Oh, no, there wasn't.
No.
There wasn't a report.
No. All right, then I have a recommendation that this meeting adjourn and the next regular meeting be held on Wednesday, November 12th, 2025, and adjourned at 1:11 p.m. May I have a mover and seconder? Moved by McNabb Brayside, seconded by North Algona Wilberforce. All in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, Tina.